Hello and welcome back to another episode of Spawn Trap's Hit Pause MCU, the podcast that is not to scale, only has one coat of paint on there, and hasn't been able to carve out figures to represent all of us. You want to say your intro? Because that was a good one too.
Oh yeah, I guess so. Oh, you'll just edit
Why
it,
not?
right?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna leave it all in here.
Leave it all. Leave it
Leave it
all.
all in here.
Welcome back to the Hit Pause MCU podcast that wants to know more about hot cocoa machines.
There you go.
My name is
we
Jordan Blaine. I'm joined by Till.
What up? Yeah, we're talking about episode 4 of Loki. Episode 5 is out, but we have not watched it. We're gonna be sticking to episode 4. And not that I don't whenever we live stream, we only get the spam comments. So I don't know if anybody's missing live streams or like shows up and lurks. We're not live streaming right now because we don't want accidental spoilers. Have you been spoiled about anything on Loki?
Uh, no, no. To be fair, I
You were on
usually
vacation.
watch it. Yeah, I usually watch it as soon as it comes out, and
Yeah.
I was on vacation for a week, so I was barely on my phone. So that helps.
I'm just not on the spaces that I usually get spoiled for things anymore. So I feel like I
Yeah.
just don't have to worry about it. The biggest thing is YouTube. It's always like the YouTube thumbnails.
Mm,
But I mean there's a few occasions where there's like close-ups of some actors' faces. So
yeah.
I really appreciate that because there's no context at all. So I appreciate the YouTubers not spoiling me
Yeah.
this time around.
Yeah, I don't think I was on like almost any social media this week. Like I think I
Yeah.
sometimes texted people or not texted, but like Snapchat people just let them know I was alive and that I was on the beach
Yeah.
and stuff. And that's like it.
I'm
It's
just
like the only
also
thing I
not on
used.
X anymore because it's like I found out today. I'm like I went on there to search for something, and I
Yeah.
found out that in the search there was a tweet from somebody that I had blocked. There was like the
Hmm.
paid verified badge. I'm like, okay, so people who I block who pay for verification, I can still see their tweets anyway. What's the point of blocking?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I pretty much unfollowed like almost most of my things on X as well because I was like, this is not really that reliable of a source anymore. So I just like
yeah.
unfollowed everything.
I do have reliable sources for things that we're going to be talking about today. It's mostly going to be Loki episode 4. This is a spoiler podcast. We're going to be talking about Loki and other things coming up in the MCU, as well as the new trailer for Echo, which I don't know. Do we want to start with that? Or should we start with Loki?
I start with Loki because I need to refresh my memory mostly about Loki. So I'll
Okay.
kind of go
So
through it.
yeah, we're going to be talking about Loki episode 4. There is a lot of notes that I wrote down that I already forget, so I'm going to have to read these throughout the podcast. We're going to bring up our visual context rectangle here. That is not the visual context rectangle. Let me bring it up here. Okay. And I just want to start off by saying that I think Jordan might be right about the multiverse in the MCU. I think I'm
Oh
going
yeah.
to concede here.
Well,
And
I don't know yet because it's weird because I was almost thinking the same thing on our trip about yours. I was trying to
oh
explain
yeah,
both theories to my girlfriend, and she was just like, "I'm confused with both of those." So
me too.
I was like, I was drawing it in like in the sand on the beach
Yeah,
though. So I was like, I'll do it on paper later. And I was like going crazy. She's like, "We're on vacation." I was like, "I'm sorry, but this is
can't get the time travel out of my head.
yeah."
Yeah, I was always under the assumption that when the Marvel's referring to the multiverse, just based on their explanations and everything, that they consider universes, like different universes, branches from the timeline
Mhm.
to pass the red line. So a point of no return, it's a new universe at that point.
Yeah.
There's still like language there where they're kind of implying that, but it sounds like based on what I'm watching from this episode changed my perspective on some like ideas I had and proved some ideas wrong. And then I was also listening to some other YouTube videos and stuff that really uh, were aligned with your theory.
Mhm.
And so it sounds like just from like what other people are discussing, it sounds like there are multiple universes. There's always been multiple universes, and there's Kang variants across those multiple universes. And there's the sacred timeline, which in your argument, you said was isolated from all of
Yeah.
that. Um, Rewatching, I did rewatch the last episode of Loki with my brother. I'm like, I just want to hear his explanation here.
Yeah.
He did say the word isolated, the sacred
Hmm.
timeline. So that
Okay.
that does go in line with your theory. So, um,
Because that's I always just thought it was like more like that because like I thought there's other universes out there.
mhm,
It was just like to just have a branch all of a sudden aging like all these characters. I'm like, wouldn't that just like it would be changing the way
yeah,
just like someone's like set path? And I was like, so that just changes branches that can lead into other multiverses. So I always thought like still like even like when they say like your dreams
yeah.
are other universes, that's like the only way that like makes sense to me that there are still other universes out there. We've just been isolated
Sure,
from
but
them.
I still can. I At that point, I had considered the dreams I'm having about another universe
Yeah.
was still a branch timeline. Something happened earlier in that universe that differentiated from what was supposed to happen, that
Mm,
it changed things in the later universe. I've always considered like other things like the Fox X-Men movies, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, still happening from like a branch in the timeline. Maybe something happened in the prehistoric era that changed how Peter Parker looks or was born or like what year it was, right?
right.
So I like it's not necessarily stuff that changed in the MCU, but stuff that maybe changed earlier that branched it so far off the path of the MCU. But
Yeah.
now I'm getting perspective, and from like a lot of stuff that happened in this episode does make more sense that there are other universes and the sacred timeline is just kept in its own loop away from everything else somehow.
Yeah.
And we'll discuss it here, but I think I took notes in order. Um, like first of all, it starts off with He Who Remains, or like Miss Minutes recapping what happened at the end of time before Ravona's memory, like her memory where her memory starts of the TVA.
Right.
They were having that discussion, which was the recording from the first episode.
Yeah.
How Renslayer helped He Who Remains win the war
Yeah.
of the multiverse. Um, so I have a lot of other questions, like how does that work? Did he kill all the other kings in the other multiverse, or do they still exist? And he just like was successfully able to keep the sacred timeline on its own thing.
I think his multiversal war, like I know there's the multiversal war or whatever. I think like his version of winning the war was like he was able to snip all of their branches like a
Okay,
snip it away so that it was isolated. That's all. That's what I've been thinking so far. Is that like
that's what I always
he was
thought, but
successfully like from ripping time like their timeline away from everything else so that they could
sure.
keep it sacred. And that was for sure one thing I was right. I think you said that Ravonna Renslayer was supposed to be his daughter or something in it.
No, no, that's his love interest.
This is love interest.
Yeah.
So I don't know for sure if that's what they're going, but it was his partner, and was it me that I was it? Did I say that I think that
You
she
said
did help him?
someone who's related to him, I think.
Yeah, I thought I said partner, and then you said that it was his love interest, and I was like, okay, so we were both like right on that
Maybe,
part.
yeah, I
But
don't remember.
whether it's love interest or they were partners at least prior to, so I was pretty sure. I'll have to go back and listen, but I think one of us, at least one of us, said that um, she'll be when the thing that Miss Minute said that she's not gonna like is that she helped oh my god, Renslayer helped He
Hmm.
Who Remains like get to where he was, and
Yeah,
then they erased his memory. And I think I'm pretty sure I said that she's gonna be pissed because she, whether it was I think I said that part of the plan already, the ideas were part of hers, but it was kind of like she helped win the war. So it
yeah.
was along those lines, anyways. And yeah, so now that's the big secret, was that she was the basically the general, and she helped win the war, or
Mhm.
commander or whatever. And then he executed an order to erase all of her memories, and then
Yes,
not just hers, but all the TVAs.
he executed Order 66. I mean, Protocol 42.
Yeah.
Uh, for the YouTube audience, once again, I am stupid. I forgot to hit streaming for our backup recording. So if the intro is gone and we're just now talking, I apologize that you missed the intro. That was my fault. Um, yeah. So he sends her back to the TVA and erases all their memories.
Yeah.
Um,
Not just hers. It sounds like it was like
everybody.
the order was all the TVA. So even, who knows, even some of them could have also been, helping throughout the multiversal war too, and been some of the like soldiers or whatever agents, and
Yeah.
now they've had their memories wiped as well. So
So I'm thinking about that because there was the Kang variants meeting each other.
yeah,
Some of them going crazy and wanting to destroy other places or conquer other universes. And then it went out into like an all-out war. He
yeah,
Who Remains wanted to stop that. Actually, one of I think it was New Rockstars. I've been watching a few videos on this. New Rockstar said they went back to watch what He Who Remains explanation of events, and he didn't say specifically that he created the TVA, but the
mm,
TVA was created because of the war, pretty much.
yeah,
So there was a TVA that had a different objective than pruning the branches.
yeah,
And we kind of saw that when Loki went back in time in the TVA, and they were looking at 63 branches happening, and they're wondering like, does he want us to let them branch? Which that point I'm still kind of confused about. Like, why? Because like, what was their objective? Also, at that
yeah,
point, Loki was never referred to as a variant when he went back in time. They just said intruder. So it's
mm,
like things are
yeah.
like drastically different in the TVA in the past compared to the present day TVA.
Right, right.
Um, so I'm just kind of wondering like like what were they doing in the past TVA? Because we know what the current TVA is all about.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, I didn't think about that. That could be
Yeah,
why, like, the Kang had his face over all everything, and then he changed it to the for the
yeah.
sacred timeline. He changed it to the
Once he achieved his objective, he's like,
yeah,
let's erase everybody's memory, convince everybody of this new timekeeper's religion, and
yeah,
then make sure that no other branches ever happen so that they don't converge with other universes.
yeah. I hope we see that.
Yeah, I want to see that too. Um,
Hmm.
I have a question about Brad.
Yeah, what's that?
Brad was our assumption is that Brad went back in time and killed the sacred timeline Brad
Yeah,
or something and assumed his life so that way the
yeah.
sacred timeline doesn't branch.
Hmm.
Brad's now in the TVA as a captive, and then he's also working for Renslayer and Miss Minutes.
Yeah, I don't know how he did it. I don't know. I have like some things that I feel like there's like either plot holes or they just haven't uh
Mm-hmm.
said clearly. So I'm wondering if like, because they always say that, hey, we can get you a life on the sacred timeline, like we can get you a life on the sacred timeline, like
Yeah.
it's like all these like promises. So I don't know, maybe.
I think by that they mean they're going to change the sacred timeline, like what the
Yeah,
rules are of the sacred timeline, because the sacred timeline is just what He Who Remains dictates, right?
yeah. Like as of right now, it's already a mess. So Brad could have been somebody who was alive like a long time ago, and then maybe passed away. Like maybe he might not even be like from like this century. Like he could be from like the
Yeah, but that
1700s or
like
something, and then
we've seen other things happen at this point that
yeah,
create branches going back to the sacred timeline, like Renslayer passing the book to He Who Remains, which we're
yeah.
gonna talk about in this episode. Um, but that created a branch timeline. So how did Brad not create a branch timeline then? If Like it was still considered a sacred timeline. My question is though, if he did assume the life of somebody from the sacred timeline to not to like live out the life exactly and not branch out the sacred timeline,
Right.
and he's in the TVA now and he can't get back into the sacred timeline, and what happens if he doesn't go back to the sacred timeline? Does that mean
So,
like him not going back to the point that he was abducted since there's no other Brad around? We're assuming since he might have been killed or something.
yeah.
Um, does that break the sacred timeline? Does Brad not have to go back to the sacred timeline? Like, can he not die? He's meant to go back there to prevent it from branching, right?
Maybe Brad's just so like not very important of a character that they just don't show us that he's branching the timeline, or it's
I
not.
feel like he's
It
the
doesn't
most
matter.
important character at this point. This is based
Yeah,
on
yeah.
that question.
He is. He's been pretty popular lately, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they haven't really showed that like anything that he's done. They haven't showed it on the timeline to like signify what he's done or how he's changed anything. Well, I don't know how he made himself a
Yeah.
life. I wish they would explain that to us so I could understand it. I feel like it's just something they're like,
Hmm.
people don't really care to figure that out. But
Yeah, but I mean, Doc said later in the episode, she said, "We all know about your escapades as an actor in the Sacred Timeline."
yeah,
So apparently, like everybody knows about it.
yeah, I don't know. I don't have the answers for that yet. I have to keep watching the thing and see what if they even show us anything more about Brad. Um,
I think they will.
where else are we? What happens after Renslayer? After
We
we
get
see the Renslayer with Miss Minutes.
we get yeah, we get Victor Timely going to
Yeah.
the TVA and meeting Ouroboros and Casey as they're working on temporal loom.
Oh
Um
yeah.
this is the big thing for me because they talked about it. They said Victor's work is based on the book that Ouroboros wrote.
Yeah.
Ouroboros's book is based off the work of Victor Timely.
Yeah.
And so there's no origin point for this, and I hate that about time travel. Um, but
But we already know that though. Uh that book isn't from Victor Timely. It's from the He Who Remains variant. So maybe the He Who Remains actual
he
name was
says,
also Victor Timely, but it's not the same. Or we know
yeah,
it's not the same variant, but it could be
there's
the
a few
same
theories
name.
about that. But the question is, so I'm just going based off like Obi says that he based his work off someone from the 17th century, I think he
Yeah.
said, um whose name is Victor Timely. So it sounds like he was there. The whole thing though is that they made it this like chicken or egg situation, right? Like who started what first, and they kind of called attention to that and made a joke about it
Yeah.
in that same conversation. So the writers are aware that this is a mistake that shouldn't be
No,
possible.
see the okay, my theory is that so let's just say like I don't know the actual name of He Who
Hmm.
Remains. We don't know his actual name as far as I know.
Right.
He could have been Victor Timely, just like
Could have.
there's multiple Peter Parkers and there's other versions of Kangs or whatever that all go by different names.
Hmm.
So let's just say He Who Remains,
Hmm.
Victor Timely, He Who Remains, the same guy from the End of Time. He
Hmm.
wrote that book. He created the TVA. Oros reads it, loves it. It says Victor
So there
Timely
was
on
there
it.
was always a Victor Timely, no
Yeah.
matter what, that
So
who
let's say,
ends up
yeah,
turning into He Who Remains.
He Who Remains or a Kang or
Okay.
whatever. Like that's the only name we've been given
So
so
that's
far.
the origin point.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking it's Victor Timely,
Okay.
writes the book, gives it to the TVA. It becomes the whole thing of the TVA. He goes in a time. It's killed by Sylvie.
Mm-hmm.
Then they took the book. They brought it to a different branch timeline to He Who Remained. Victor Timely,
Victor Timely,
and
yeah.
then he learns this whole thing. So really, Ouroboros talking to Victor Timely was we already know it's a variant of Victor Timely.
Yeah, it's
So
not
it's
the same
kind
Victor
yeah.
Timely. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's my theory. Like it's kind of like the chicken or the egg, but the egg is an imposter. Like it's not the real egg. Like it's not the original. Like that's like the only thing I'm thinking of. So like
Yeah.
there's the book that Ouroboros knows from Victor Timely, and Victor Timely's like, you wrote your Ouroboros or whatever. You're a genius, but really it's different. Victor Timely wrote it entirely. So the two of them are kind of like both false gods to each other because somebody else technically wrote it. But I get that it's confusing either way.
Yeah.
That's my theory that makes sense to me because they took technically, like Miss Minute said, he's like, I wrote this book, and she goes, well,
Mhm.
sorta. Like she says sort of, and then when they meet each other and they're talking, I'm like, but technically neither of them wrote this
Yeah.
book. So I think it was, or did Ouroboros write the book? But
Yes.
it's based off of He Who Remains work,
Work. Well,
right?
Victor Timely's work.
Victor Timely. So this Victor Timely is basically yeah, it's basically Victor Timely wrote this book or made
The
the rules.
original Victor
Yeah,
Timely. Yeah.
the original Victor Timely wrote the rules. Ouroboros like made the book, and then a different Victor Timely is like, oh, this is your work. This is amazing. And Ouroboros was like, I wrote that book based off you, but not technically you. So that's the only way it makes sense to me. So
I have a few points off of that.
yeah.
One, I kind of agree with you, but there's a little bit more to that.
Hmm.
I've been uh so for both New Rockstars and Screen Crush, they presented the idea that Victor Timely is a variant of Kang that was planted in the sacred timeline.
Hmm.
So, some variant of Kang from another multiverse,
Yeah.
someone put him in the sacred timeline. Not necessarily He Who Remains, maybe another Kang variant, maybe somebody else. But
Yeah.
he was planted there as a contingency for He Who Remains, and He Who Remains knew about it.
Yeah.
So he says, if I die, this person can become Victor Timely or a Kang variant if he's presented with this information. Um,
Yes. Do you
so
do you have theories on who did that?
no, not yet. I mean,
No.
but I think that kind of makes sense. But it kind of makes sense if he's thinking like, oh, these like Sylvie's gonna meet me, and she's
Yeah.
probably gonna kill me. I need to make sure I can still rule. So I'm gonna place someone on the timeline that can become another Kang, like can become me.
Could have been Miss Minutes and him thought of it together
Yeah,
because she immediately went for him, right?
I think that's the case. Yeah,
Yeah.
but like
And then
regardless
she
of
was
who
like,
put him there, I think so. Victor Timely is somebody, or at least the person. Like maybe I don't know if that is meant to be his name. Probably is, but like if Victor Timely was meant on the sacred timeline that He Who Remains dictated. So he's like,
yeah,
Victor Timely's going to be in this point in time, no matter what, and it's part of the sacred timeline.
yeah,
Grows up as a candlestick maker because that's what he was doing
yeah,
before they gave him the book. But I'm guessing, uh, yeah, maybe it was a Victor Timely from another multiverse that wrote that original book for Ouroboros,
yeah,
or maybe it was that Victor Timely on the sacred timeline had basic ideas of the TVA but couldn't implement them because of the technology. So they based like Ouroboros Space's work off of that information, not necessarily the or the branched timeline version of to Victor Timely that we saw in this episode. Like he's
yeah.
more advanced with these ideas because of the TVA book.
Mm,
But I think ultimately, both of our ideas, we're making it a point to say there is an origin point for this information.
yeah,
It's not a chicken or egg situation exactly, at least the way that we're thinking about it. It could be
yeah,
lazy writing, and they're like, no, it's a chicken and egg thing, and we'll make fun of it because we know it doesn't make sense. But I hope
yeah,
that's not the case.
yeah. No, no. Like you guys, like they have a lot of people who aren't happy with the way these phases are going.
Yeah,
So you can't have lazy writing and then laugh about it though, like because people are already like getting annoyed. I'm already see things about like I'm pretty sure they're fake, but I always still see things where it's like Marvel's deciding to revamp the Avengers with the original six again. I'm like,
Yeah, I've been
why
seeing
would
a
they?
lot of that this week.
I'm like, there's no way they would do that because like, and they're like, yeah, this would
Tony
mean all the
Stark's
characters will
returning,
come.
or
Yeah,
yeah, Robert Downey
all the
Jr. is
dead
returning.
characters will return are returning from death, and it's gonna take
Yeah.
place. And I'm like, I just stopped reading. I'm like, that's so stupid. I'm like, don't. The
Yeah.
worst thing you could do and be like, we're gonna scrap everything and start over. I'm like, don't do that because just you had a bad
I think
phase and move on.
I think there's merit in this theory though.
Yeah, like
He's a master of time. Like he knows how time in the multiverse works. I imagine he would have thought of something like a contingency plan like that.
yeah, because it could have easily been like he was tired, so
Hmm.
he could have when he was like at his most powerful, like when he told Renslayer to get her memory wiped. Like I don't know what part in time that would have been at, but he could have, um,
At the end and beginning of time.
yeah.
People are
So
thinking that this is a loop timeline situation. So
yeah,
they said that at the Citadel at the end of time. So that would have been outside of time. So it could be at the end and beginning of time.
yeah. The way I think it is like if like since you brought up that point, it could have been like they're not all. Doesn't mean all Kangs are terrible.
Nope.
It doesn't mean all He Who Remains are gonna be, or all Victor Timely's are gonna be hostile.
Hmm.
He just said he's like the most like level-headed of them, or he's like there's way worse if you think I'm terrible, whatever. He
Yeah.
could have taken once after developing Miss Minutes, she said if someone does come, like you can only see so far in time, so after that point we don't know what might happen to you. Maybe it was
Hmm.
a combined effort between the two of them. Maybe even Renslayer was part of it. Maybe they took a very harmless, like one of those harmless variants of him, Victor Timely, the guy that we
Hmm.
see, and maybe they put him on the timeline, erase his memories, send him on his way, and only a contingency if he dies, which he did.
Yeah.
Maybe Miss Minutes was like, I got to get Renslayer in on this because she's the only one who knows, she was informed of the thing, even though she has her memory wipe, she doesn't know about it. So we're going to take a book, we're going to get Renslayer,
Yeah.
and we're going to go to Victor Timely and see if he wants to restart this and fix a TVA. So it's more
Yeah.
of like, you're right. Like, I understand the contingency part,
Yeah.
but maybe he wasn't ever supposed to be intelligent as more than
Oh,
a
so you're
candle
thinking
maker
like
without the book.
He Who Remains never thought of this. It was Miss Minutes idea this whole time.
It could have been both. Like I was just saying, could have
Yeah.
been He Who Remains and Miss Minutes. It could have been Miss Minutes, him and Renslayer before Renslayer
Yeah.
had her memory wiped. So it was all contingencies. I don't know. Like I like the contingency idea that you have. I just don't know. It could have been a three-way idea or
Hmm.
just both idea, or maybe Miss Minutes did it without Kang's knowledge. Like who
Sure.
knows? So um, either way, she knew to bring that book to him, and maybe they got like a variant, like that Victor Timely that we see. Maybe he wasn't even ever supposed to be very, very smart until he gets that book. Like it wouldn't
Yeah.
activate until he got the book and then had all these ideas and then like whatever. So they took a very it would never interfere with the rest of them because there was no other Victor Timely on the sacred timeline. So
There was. He's just a candlestick maker.
right, that's what I'm saying. This was
Yeah.
just him. So maybe that was his original point origin, or maybe there was never one on that timeline, and then or whatever.
Yeah.
Whether they took it from a different timeline and put him on that one, or they're like, cool, I'm gonna use because like you said, the He Who Remains, the sacred
Yeah.
timeline, he's not technically on it. So he just chose one. Maybe he chose one with the most harmless Victor Timely that could assume his role if for his inevitable death, and it would be a contingency plan. But uh, either
Well,
way, I like that idea.
I do too. I have a further question though. What
Yeah.
if there's multiple contingencies on the sacred timeline?
Like you think more Victor Timely's or different?
Different people who are Kang variants
Could be.
that were
It could
taken
be.
from other universes and planted in the sacred timeline.
I just feel like when there's multiple of the same person on a
Hmm.
timeline, like it seems to mess with time, I
Yeah.
guess. Like I
But
don't
if there was one character where that would make sense to do that with, would
yeah,
that
it would
not be
be
this character?
yeah, like they could for sure do it. I
Yeah.
just don't know. Yeah, there could be ones from different years, different
Hmm.
centuries, because you could do it from the 1700s, 1800s. That way, they would
Yeah.
never meet each other or
Yeah.
anything like that. But
Like like there could be like, hey, Miss Minutes, in case of spaghettification, unlock the next Hang variant in the sacred timeline.
Yeah, they could. Um,
Go
what?
further.
Yeah, what happened after? So
Oh,
after he meets Ouroboros, and we have
yeah,
all that.
OB actually made a reference to that whole chicken or egg situation and said like a snake eating its own tail. Just another
Yes.
like acknowledgement. Yeah, the situation is an Ouroboros snake of which I am named after.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um. Oh, I saw an interesting question, and it might get too political, so we don't have to discuss it here. I will be I'll be asking my brother though, because I think it's an interesting question. Is the TVA, because they were having this discussion in the episode, is the TVA an allegory for law enforcement in the U.S.?
Oh, what? Sorry.
An allegory for law enforcement, like the police in the US. Like just the fact that the TVA is corrupt. It's damaged from within and it's easy to just burn it down and just destroy it, or you can change it from within and fix it. But I saw somebody do like a reaction video to that episode, and I was just listening to the words that they were saying written in the show, and I'm like, it does kind of feel that way to
Yeah.
me. I don't know.
Uh, uh, I get what you're saying. Like, I don't know
Yeah,
if they're really corrupt though. They just had their memory wiped, and then just had a crazy revelation as to that the fact that they're all variants. So really, they're all
they're
just
just
kind
pruning brand, like just
of
killing people, like not providing free will for the longest time, because that's what they were instruction in like um institutionally instructed to
yeah.
do, right?
Yeah, but they didn't realize they were killing billions of people every time they were doing that though. They just thought they had to prevent that from the multiversal war. Did they know about the multiverse war or no?
Yeah, because it was part of the Miss Minute instructional video of the TBA.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they knew they had to just stop their thing from connecting with other multiverses or other, I guess technically just other universes, but they had no idea that they were, by pruning a branch, that they were just killing all of the lives on that branch, because they never said anything about it before. They were just
Yeah.
like, we're taking you out of this branch and we gotta take you to TVA, and then we're gonna reset the branch. That way
They have
it's
to
fine.
they
They
have
had
to
no
have
idea they were
some sort
killing.
of idea though, right? Like
Yes, but they had no
because
idea that they were killing billions of lives, and then that just in season two, that's when they started like, you're killing all these people, you're killing all these things. Like they had, I don't think they really completely knew what they're doing.
yeah.
They never really knew, and then they started to know. Like that's why like who's the first agent that we meet? Um, forget her name. Uh,
In the series, like the first
yeah,
season
yeah, it's
one,
her. It's her
B15.
B15. Yeah, so she's the one who's kind of like all on board on pruning the branches, and then she eventually, once she gets her
She only
when she
realized
becomes,
that when she realizes she is a variant.
yeah, when she got the enchantment from
Hmm.
when she was, her memories were enchanted by Sylvie, then
Yeah.
she realized, like, she's like, I had a life on there and it was all erased, and my variant and all this, like, she knows. I don't think she knew
Yeah,
as
but do you
much
think the
before. So
TVA, if the TVA was told, hey, like if they didn't know they were variants, they were told, hey, by the way, you pruning timelines that are branching, you're actually murdering an entire like branched universe of people. Do you think they would care? Or do you think like, nope, that's just my job. That's what I have to do to defend things based on what my gods are telling me, what my
I
bosses
don't
are
know.
telling me.
I don't know. Things kind of started to turn around when, after B15 realized she was a
Yeah.
variant and she realized she had memories, and then once they realized that the like they saw the robots' heads all like come off and stuff, and they were
Hmm.
just robots. She's like, "What the hell are we doing? Like, we've been killing people for literally no reason. Like, everything's a lie." So
Yeah.
I think that's when they sort of realized that, like, I don't know. That's, I wouldn't say they're quite like the police, but they're, I kind of get the reference a little bit.
Yeah.
I just think it's a little more extreme. It's like
I
the
think
Marvel
the
version of it
language
with
and the conversation between Sylvie and Loki,
yeah,
like the Like the reaction thing I was watching, the person was just like, "It, wait a minute," and like it just kind of like clicked.
I'm thinking like
So I can
she's
kind
kind
of
of
see it.
like she's kind of like a
Sh-
she's
She's in
saying like
this.
like
She's. I think she's more of the mindset that there's no fixing this time police force.
yeah
So it needs to be abolished and
yeah
destroyed. Loki's more level headed and says, no, we need to have a system in place that guides what should be done, but we can it's
yeah
harder, like it's easier to burn it all to the ground, but it's harder and morally acceptable to fix it.
yeah. I
Yeah,
think
from within.
that makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
like Loki's about like we have to fix this
Hmm.
in case something more terrible comes, especially like the temporal loom. Like that are that like clearly the main objective right now is we can't let that be destroyed or it will just erase all the branches and break the timeline and then we're all fucked anyways.
Yeah.
And the temporal loom is what I have like I have such a difficult time understanding the temporal loom
You and
because
me both, man.
I'm like if it's a physical thing that draws energy, but
Yeah.
if it explodes, it erases an entire one entire universe, like just our sacred
Everything in
timeline and all of its
existence?
branches, or everything in
I
existence.
don't
Yeah,
know.
so
The
but
episode left on a cliffhanger, so I don't think we're gonna
yeah,
find out until the next episode.
I'm like, it's just so crazy, like
Yeah.
weird at like the temporal loom being a physical thing. And then I was like, then my only thing that I can make sense of it is like, is it more of just like a power source that draws
I
like
I
energy from
think that's
life,
what it
and then
is,
it's
because that's
powers the
that's
TVA?
that's the only thing I can wrap my head around is that the
Yeah,
temporal loom, like time is not a physical thing,
yeah.
but it's creating some sort of energy. So like these branches, like the physical branches that we see is sort of like energy that's coming from existence, I guess all of existence.
Which is
And
weird because I always thought like all of existence made sense from like the Celestials. The Celestials are one planet,
yeah, it's
they
a different
grow and
thing though,
whatever.
right?
I know, yeah, I guess it's like the universe is like is the Celestials like the main breeder of life on a
Well, yeah,
temporal loop on a
the
in this universe then?
Celestials, according to Eternals, are create like
They create
intelligent life within the universe. Like
yeah.
they form galaxies and make sure that life thrives within the universe.
Yeah, like one planet dies to create a celestial, but then that
Yeah,
celestial will create a whole nother galaxy or
yeah,
something.
exactly.
But
So
then I'm like,
they,
so then the temporal loom is supposed to be bigger than a celestial being? Like that's
yeah,
I don't
well,
know. It seems weird
it's
to
not
me.
like a size thing. It's a different
Yeah.
aspect altogether, right? So
Yeah,
it's
it's
like
just
there's time within that universe that
yeah.
the Celestials exist in, and we're not in this point yet in the movies, but in the comics at least, there is a creator above all that
Uh,
that creates everything here, even the cosmic entities that we've seen like eternity and the living tribunal we've seen or mentioned a few times.
yeah.
So like different things like that, there's like one sort of like creator above all that
Yeah.
um
It's just it's
would
weird. The temporal loom is just it throws me off.
yes, I completely agree. I'm in the mindset right now where I'm like, I'm not wrapping my head around the temporal loom, so I'm just gonna
Yeah.
wait till the show is over and hope they
It makes
explain it
sense.
better.
Yeah. Yeah. Um what else happened that was major in this?
What happened was possibly the most disturbing death scene that we did not see in
Yeah.
the MCU.
Yeah. So was I were we right about how we were wondering how Renslayer got out of that thing the first place? Because she gets out and we're like, how is she gonna get back to the TVA from there?
I'm
So Miss
assuming,
Minutes.
yeah, I'm assuming Miss Minutes hijacked the tempad from the TVA
Yeah.
and caused it to like teleport itself to the end of time, and they use that to go back to the TVA.
Yeah, unless she can just teleport herself. Like she's
Yeah,
got some crazy wicked, I don't know, fourth
Yeah.
wall powers, I guess. I don't know. She's uh so they go back to TVA,
Mm-hmm.
and then there is Bradley and all the other TVA agents who were causing the bombing of the branches from a
Mm-hmm.
couple episodes ago. Do you want to describe that death,
No.
Dean?
That's horrible.
They, Renslayer and Miss Minutes, basically gave that group of people an ultimatum to either join them or die. And they, for whatever reason, all decided just to die. I don't know why you wouldn't just say you're going to join them and then fight and sabotage their plan later,
Mm-hmm.
because that was your best option there. But that box, what are those things called? The time door?
They have a name?
Yeah, those things are called time doors. Those like
Okay.
little like gold things.
Wasn't
Because I
really a
saw
door.
I well, like the
It's a
gold things
box.
that people walk through.
Yeah.
They're called in the subtitles. It says time door opens when I saw it on the subtitles.
Oh,
So
okay, yeah.
so those are called time doors, I guess. So when it was basically a time door type box, and it just slowly closed on probably about 20 people until you just heard screaming, and then you didn't hear screaming, but then you just heard blood dripping and squishing, and it was really
Yeah.
gross because it was
And
weird because you can hear them talking, and then you could just still hear the blood just dripping off the time doors or whatever. And I was like, oh, that's rough. And the screaming just all stopped at once. So you knew it got to that point where it just broke everybody equally. And I was like, oh my God, all the screaming stopped all at once. Like that was wild.
and Miss Minutes had the most like disturbing
Oh,
like smiling stare.
dude, she was like a little kid meeting Santa or something.
Yeah.
Like she was so
Yeah.
ecstatic. Like she's the biggest smile, but you could tell in her eyes, you're batshit crazy.
How did the
So it
time
was
doors get scratches? Because that box had scratches.
did it?
Yeah. I
I
was
think it
watching
just
it back and I was like, how is it scratched?
I feel like it just has like weird etching like in the material itself
Yeah.
or whatever. It's kind of like a time portal sort of thing, but it just that's the way they made it
It
instead
looks
of
like
being
it
like
looks like glass, but it had like or like
yeah.
stone or something, but
Yeah, when I look at them, I kind of like the design of them, but I
yeah.
also sometimes when I look at it and I read too much into it, I'm like it kind of looks like not that well done. But then I'm like,
Yeah.
but then some other times I like it a lot. I'm like, those look really cool. And I'm like,
Yeah, I
it
think
doesn't
that's
look
all
fitting.
intentional. Yeah.
Yeah.
The cool design
It's
though.
it's like it's how they move, I guess, quickly through time without
Mhm.
it being like a portal type deal or something. So it's kind of like the middle between stopping time and being a portal, I guess. Like you can just travel
Right.
through, I don't know. It does look more like just like gold brick, but they
Mhm.
just walk right
But
through
like
it.
see through, yeah.
Yeah.
And they
Um
kind of get blurred when they walk through it.
So out of that whole group of 20 people, roughly, Bradley was the only one who agreed to help Miss Minutes and Renslayer
Yeah.
for place so that he could take his place back on the timeline.
That's one of the worst ways I can think about dying. You getting crushed with a group of like 20 people
Oh
in a
yeah.
closing box.
At certain point though, like it doesn't last long. Like as soon like all it takes is like one thing to like crush, and I think you die. But
Yeah.
it depends, I guess, how you go, right? Like you'd probably feel everything break
I don't I
until either your brain or your skull is crushed or your heart is squished, because I
I don't
feel
want
like
to talk about it.
you would feel every other part of you snap and break. uh,
That's
I,
disturbing. Yeah.
it depends how close it goes too, because then it's like almost like a weird Rick and Morty thing, dude. Like it's like
All right, let's stop it.
it
Let's
would
stop
push
it.
people into other people, and then it would just be a mush.
Let's move on.
Right.
We're moving on to Victor Timely being very impressed that there is a hot cocoa machine.
Oh yeah, well, there was.
And he would not stop talking about it to the point where nobody else can focus on their work. And then D90 says, "Hey, I'll take him to get some hot cocoa."
Yeah,
And
I did.
then D90 gets pruned.
True. Who did you get pruned by? I
He got
forget.
pruned by Brad.
Brad. Yes. Okay, I just remembered that. Yeah.
Um, then Brad asks, "Where's the device?" which is what Renslayer and Miss Minutes are asking as well.
Is that the
What?
little device ball that he created?
I don't know.
I think that's the only thing I could think of was that little device that he created that was like his what do you call that? Like his beta, his
Yeah.
what do you call that when they say that's a prototype? It was just his
Yeah,
prototype.
prototype. Yeah.
It was his prototype of whatever they needed to fix the temporal
So
loom or
they're
his.
looking. Yeah, they're looking for that to fix the temporal loom. Ob, Mobius, and Casey and Loki are already on that.
Yeah.
Like, so I don't know if that is the device or if they're looking for a different device.
Yeah, I didn't. I honestly don't. It sucks because I watched that about a week ago, so now
Yeah.
it's already, or I guess 2 weeks ago now. So um, don't remember that part too much. I had two more things near the end. Um,
Well, next is everything's going to shit. And then Loki sees himself and he prunes himself.
oh yeah, see that was crazy because when we remember we said it looked more like he got pruned from behind.
Yeah.
And then I think we did say in like episode 1 that we're like, I feel like it's gonna be a version of him. Like I feel like because we didn't see who it was, it's either gonna be him or it's gonna be like something like that. We're gonna find out later. And we
Yeah.
did. I just didn't understand why the timeline started going. Like, why did the time start going back? Because that Loki back in the future.
Well,
Because remember he kept getting teleported between the future and the present, the future and the present. So was that now the future when everything was going crazy and Loki's like, oh shit,
mhm.
I just saw myself teleport at the elevator. I
Yeah.
know I have to prune him to
Yeah.
send him back. So
Yeah,
that's
that's what that
crazy.
was.
Yeah, that's kind of cool because like it showed that episode 1 sort of meshed with. Now is that episode 5 or 4? What are we on?
We're we're
We're on
talking about
4.
4. Yeah.
Talking about 4. We haven't seen 5 yet.
No.
Okay, so yeah, so that's cool that it went from episode 1 to 4, and I'm like, that was interesting. Um,
Yeah.
Also, Miss Minutes like locked them out of facility, right? They like she turned everything off,
Yes.
and then OBS was able to hack her out and turn her off and close all that out down or something.
Ouroboros. Yeah.
Yeah, he reset her. Who did I say?
Obius.
OBS. Oh
Which
my
is
god, I
like
said
it was like
mixed two
Mobius and
names.
Ouroboros like
Yeah,
fused
OB.
together.
Yeah. So OB locks Miss Minutes off, basically turns whatever powers her
Mhm.
AI intelligence off. And then it was so funny because Obi goes, "Well, if I do that, it'll make it so that all everyone's powers come back." And then both the Lokis are like, "Do it!"
Yeah.
So I was like, "Hell yeah!" Because Loki's gonna be able to use all of his um, superpowers in the timeline, and I was like, "This is gonna be sick." So
Yeah.
like, I knew as soon as like Loki was gonna get his powers, I was like, "Oh, Renslayer and Bradley don't stand a chance with Miss Minutes gone." I was like, "Miss Minutes is gone." Like it was easy breezy from there because after Bradley prunes
Mhm.
the guy from the hot cocoa machine, he steals Ouroboros, and then they're like interrogating him for that thing. So
Yes. Three questions on that. One, if when Loki was running around when everything was going to shit, there was an announcement saying like everybody in the TVA go to your nearest time door. I guess I have four
right.
questions on this. Um, would everybody have got out before they shut the power down?
I don't know. Yeah, I wonder if that's like a kind of like how floodlights come on.
Yeah. And if
Like
so, where
you
would
got,
they go? They would go somewhere on the sacred timeline, right?
I guess, I suppose, someone that's sacred timeline. Maybe they have a
Yeah.
meeting spot that like
Yeah. In
where
case
do
of
you
a fire
meet?
drill.
Yeah, yeah, it's basically like the TVA's fire drill, or like it's kind of like when a vessel is in space and it's
Mhm.
gonna explode or something, and they shoot all the what are those called? Like little
Escape
capsules of people.
pods. Yeah.
Escape pods. There you go. Escape pods. It's kind of like what the time doors are. So I guess
Yeah.
hopefully, if the power's working or not working, you're able to go through a time door and escape. Because otherwise, they're
Yeah.
also stuck in the TVA while the temporal loom is
So the
exploding.
TVA is also they seem to be an organization within a larger city that also like facilitates the TVA in some way, right?
Yeah.
Also there's a department called Night yeah, it was the department called Nightmare or something that they
Hmm.
referred to in season one. So there's some other entities that exist here, and they're sitting on top of the temporal loom. It seems like. Um, so if this shit's happening, the TVA is escaping out of the time doors and everything. What about the rest of the city? What are they doing? They all
I don't
fucked
know.
too?
See, that's why I think the temporal loom just powers the TVA, and like I think that's
Yeah.
why like the whole like facility would explode or die or whatever. But I don't, and they keep saying it's the end of all life. But I'm like, but didn't Victor Timely create the temporal loom? That there was life before the temporal loom? Because then that's where I don't understand. Because then I'm like, well, then
Well,
is
yeah,
the
the
temporal
TVA
loom?
didn't always exist. The TVA was
Yeah,
created after one of the Kang variants.
yeah.
Like
So
they made that like they found some sort of existence outside of time where people can live and also never age and live forever.
yeah.
And he plucked people from points of time and put them there to work in the TVA.
That's why I'm excited to watch these next couple episodes
Yeah.
just to figure out. I hope we learn more of the temporal loom. And I think you and I both said that the temporal loom seems like it's going to explode before the end of the
Which I
episode.
thought was going to happen at the in
Yeah,
the last episode. I was not expecting everything that happened in this episode to happen this
yeah.
early.
The
So I'm
temporal loom didn't
surprised.
explode yet, did it?
It did.
I thought I saw. I thought it was getting really bright. I don't remember if it
Yeah,
exploded
because
or
it
not.
was exploding.
It was like failing. Huh, I guess I'll have to watch that ending scene again. So let's wrap up that last little bit then. So then
Hmm.
after
Well,
Bradley.
I have another question about the power dampeners.
Oh, okay.
If they can use their powers now,
Yeah.
can they use the Infinity Stones?
Damn. I don't know. Yeah, I guess, eh? Like if they
Yeah.
can use a time stone, can they use the time stones? That's a lot of time stones they could use to
Yeah.
erase. Oh, dude. I didn't even think of that. Like, can they just put like a giant a space thing of space stones around the temporal loom and
Hmm.
just have it explode somewhere the fuck else so that doesn't whatever or
Yeah.
uh fuck, I don't know. That's crazy. Oh man, if we don't see the time stones being used, I'll be upset. I'm like,
Just
what a
because I
missed
asked the
opportunity.
question.
I didn't even think of that. No, that didn't even come to my mind. I was like, oh, they got their powers. They're gonna be so much more powerful than all the TVA people because they're gods.
Yeah.
This is gonna be sick. And then that's cool.
All right.
Interesting.
Next point. What was the next thing on your
Oh,
list here?
um, so after Bradley and Renslayer have Victor Timely, they
Hmm.
need his aura to go through the thing or whatever after
Yeah.
I guess they use it to open it or whatever, but um I thought that Loki was just gonna when Victor Timely, not Victor Timely, there's so many names. When
Hmm.
Bradley leaves, I
Yeah.
thought Loki was just gonna turn himself into to him and walk
Yeah.
in and then just stab her with the thing. But they fucking mind controlled him, which was even more savage, I think. Because I was
Yeah.
like, you could just simulate him and knock him out and simulate him, then go in there and play pretend. But man, they had Bradley go back in and
Hmm.
say a bunch of dialogue about just being I don't know, I forget what he says. It's like he said it was like nice and cozy in here and blah
Yeah.
blah blah and it's nice to see you again. And then Bradley fucking prunes Renslayer.
Yeah.
So sending her what into the abyss? Then he sends her to the end of
She
time.
she would be at in the what do they call it?
I think it was
It's
the abyss, wasn't it?
the void at
The void.
the
Yeah.
void. They said the void at the end of time. It would be the void
Yeah.
before the end of time
Yeah.
because it's being guarded by Eliath
Yeah. Yeah. So she is in the abyss
with
and
D90.
D90 and
Would
still a
be
whole
there.
bunch of Lokis because the Lokis are all just living in the void too. So they get to deal with a lot more Loki
Yeah.
variants. Um, and then they grab Victor Timely, bring him back to the thing. Then they have to do this whole thing, whatever. You know what? A little thing that I just thought was weird because Victor Timely was like, "Yo, you guys don't know what you're gonna do in case something goes wrong. We're running out of time. I have to be the one that goes in there and fixes this." I'm like, dude was super impressed by a hot cocoa machine and didn't understand it. But then he just suited up a spacesuit in 2 seconds. I'm like,
Yeah.
didn't we just take this guy from the
Uh,
1800s and then he just put a spacesuit on by himself? I'm
yeah.
like,
Well, he needed to power the machine, right?
Yeah, I know, but I just like he's like, I'll go down, and he went down this thing by
Yeah.
himself, and then also next thing we saw, he was suited up. I'm like, did nobody help him suit up? I'm like, that's a spacesuit. He doesn't know what he's doing. Um, so in that moment is like probably 5 seconds. He walks in, and the radiation was so crazy that
Mhm.
what did it do to him?
Turn them to spaghetti.
Yeah, it turned
He
him
he
into spaghetti,
spaghettified.
spaghettified. So now that was something that the way he like melted into spaghetti form.
Mhm.
It does that have anything to do at all with how um Scott Lang, when he was in the Quantum Mania, in the quantum realm, the way when he was really big, remember he went big and he was running and then
Mhm.
he like ran and a whole giant version of him turned into spaghetti. Why were those so similar deaths?
I believe it's because the animators liked using that special effect.
Oh, is that really? I'm like
That's
one was killed by radiation
yeah.
and one was in a quantum realm where you're super tiny and your
Sure.
atoms split or something, and then you just turned into spaghetti and different little things. I'm like, why
Yeah.
were they the exact same deaths? But I was like, why do those? I'm like, those have to be some sort. There's got to be a correlation there because it doesn't make sense. But
Yeah. I mean, is there a correlation between that and Wanda turning Reed Richards into string cheese? Like
you're right. That's only that's yeah, I like that one because at least she just made him she just unraveled him. That was like his special ability. So like I that's the only way I get it. But that makes a good point too. That is 3 times we've seen spaghetti deaths.
yeah.
So that's what's weird. Which if you're watching Rick and Morty, there's a hilarious spaghetti episode that you need to watch that
Oh,
just came
okay.
out last night that was really funny.
That's funny.
Um
Um my question is the point of the aura being recognized by Victor Timely as He Who Remains
yeah,
also just destroyed my theory that the temporal aura is unique to every single variant.
yeah.
So unless He Who Remains thought of that and you know planned
Right.
accordingly, but again, this is a branched timeline Victor Timely, so he's a brand new variant after the death of He Who Remains. So I don't really know how you could plan for that. So, um, no, it sounds like variants still carry uh, a similar temporal aura. So, like, does Loki and Sylvie have the same temporal aura then?
So that's what I was wondering if like because you said contingency and I'm like oh
Yeah.
maybe that's why his temporal aura worked,
Mm-hmm.
but they were just kind of thinking like we need his temporal aura. They kept saying we need his temporal aura like they knew it was gonna work, not like we need a version of his temporal aura. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I like the idea that even if you're a variant and you're a bit different than like say how Loki and Sylvie, I still like the idea that to tell them apart, even if most variants look the same, their temporal aura
Like
is
their DNA
yeah, like it's
or
slightly different.
fingerprints. Yeah.
I like the idea that it's slightly different, but maybe it's at least similar enough to, for the story wise. Um, like my temporal aura would be different than yours, but a
Yeah.
different Jordan in a different universe, my temporal aura is at least similar enough to unlock uh
Right.
the thing they used because that's all they needed it for was to at least because you got or OB got locked out, so they just needed the temporal aura to open it. So it clearly wasn't like the most important key,
Mm-hmm.
but it needed to be there. So that's all I got was that it was at least similar enough. Or unless they all are identical, then maybe
Yeah.
just every variant has the same temporal aura, so that you can at least tell them that they're all Lokis, so you still know, you know. That's all I got. It'd be weird though to have the same temporal aura. Like, you think the
Yeah.
Loki versus the alligator Loki? You think
That's
they
what I'm
have the same?
wondering. Yeah.
They think they have the same temporal aura, or maybe at least you need a version that's close enough. It's weird. It's so weird though. Like, you think Thor and is
Mm-hmm.
it Frog Thor? Like, what's the frog one? Do you think
Rog.
Throg? Do you think
Yeah.
Throg has the same temporal aura? Like,
I don't
what? Like,
know.
maybe there
If
at
you
least
don't
have
know
to
what
be.
we're talking about, go back to season one. In the episode where Loki goes to the void at the end of time, they're panning down to their hideout, and you see Mjolnir there, and then right
Yeah.
beside it, there's a jar with a frog jumping at the jar trying to reach Mjolnir, and the frog's dressed up like Thor. That's Thor as a little frog, otherwise known as Throg.
But
Um,
shouldn't Throg be able to just grab the hammer? Isn't he still worthy enough to get it through the jar? Maybe he wasn't worthy at the
I
time.
don't know.
Maybe
um,
Frog Odin banished him, so he's
I
not
remember
his he's not worthy at the moment.
Matt and I were having a debate over whether that was Throg or not, based off of like very circumstantial information that they put that they put in the episode.
Yeah,
He's like that wasn't Throg, that was Thor as a Throg, that was Thor as a frog because it's a different. I'm like, it's the MCU's Throg. It's Throg. That's what they're
yeah,
making Throg there. It's just a little cameo because who gives a shit about Throg? They're not gonna make Throg the next, you
yeah.
know,
They're not.
Agatha
Plus,
Coven of Chaos series, you know?
yeah. Plus, it was in the abyss, so it could have been from any
Yeah.
timeline. It could have been pruned from any timeline or any multiverse, whatever. So whether it was Frog or it was
Who
Thor that Loki
cares?
turned into a frog, like
I think Loki turned him into a frog, but they're just referring to that as Throg. Like
yeah,
there's no comics distinction. Like the MCU pulls inspiration from the comics, but they're
yeah,
not going to follow comics to a T, right? Otherwise, I would know what the hell's happening
in the
before
TVA.
anything comes out, right?
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't have so many questions.
Have you heard of the Temporal Loom and any comic books you've read?
No, but I also haven't heard of the TVA before.
Oh,
It's never come up in any of the comics I've read. Kang for sure. Kang shows up all the time. Sylvie is not like in the comics at all.
yeah.
Uh, Renslayer. I don't think I've seen it in the comics. I have seen it in animation.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I don't really read. I haven't really read the comics that these characters are from. So
Interesting.
yeah.
Hmm.
Uh,
Um,
any other
is that
questions for this episode?
that was how it ended, I believe, right? We
Yeah,
saw
shocking
we saw
ending.
Poor Victor Timely. He got taken from his. He was given a book. He
Yeah,
was had made all these cool inventions. Then he was taken from time. Everyone pulled him left and right, fighting for good and evil with him. And
yeah,
then he tried to save the sacred timeline, and he was just turned into spaghetti in 3 seconds. So that was the end of that variant.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, that was pretty much how the episode ended. Everyone was stunned
Yeah.
watching Loki, Sylvie, Mobius, Ob, and they just watched as they could not help him. He was just ripped apart.
Hmm.
And yeah, then the temporal loom started to explode. Don't remember seeing it explode. I remember seeing like the light
It
go bright and
exploded.
stuff, and it
Yeah,
exploded. It was like
it's
the final
clearly
ending.
exploding. Yeah, and they're like preparing for. They're like, oh shit, this is happening.
Yeah, it's like
They
at
don't
full
have
meltdown
any.
phase.
I was wondering, I'm like, do they have any time sticks where they can start like pruning each other to get the hell out of there quickly? But no, the power's down, so they can't use temp pads. They don't have the stick because he gave it to Brad when they mind controlled Brad. They
Yeah.
don't have a quick escape out of that place. Um, so
But well, Loki does have his. I mean, they have powers, so hopefully between the two,
what
Loki and Sylvie, maybe they can
the only
make a
thing I can
force
think
field or
of
something.
is
I
if
don't know.
they hold hands like they did on Lamentus and that somehow creates some sort of escape plan. I don't know.
Which is so
No,
crazy because I'm like, where are we escaping to? When they
yeah,
said that if the temporal loom explodes, it destroys all the life. So I'm like, where are you
yeah.
gonna go? So,
Well,
but
I do have an idea for that, but what I was getting to is that they everything's exploding. I thought this was going to happen in the finale, so it's
yeah,
happening way early.
yeah, we got two
Um,
episodes left.
yeah, so I'm just wondering, like, what are your theories here?
I don't know, but now the Infinity Stones are like on my mind now because they weren't before. But I'm
Yeah,
like, man, can we use a space stone to get everybody out of there?
yeah.
Um, the only thing I'm like, how does a space stone, like, I'm trying to think.
The
Like,
space zone is like a teleporter
right, I understand that, but
or
like
a like
Loki's always used it as the box. He's always used it as the Tesseract. So how does can he just physically grab it and teleport himself out? Like, can he use it without a device like the gauntlet? Like how
yeah, you don't
does
need a device. It
yeah.
just creates portals. or
Yeah.
you can move stuff with it because Thanos prevented Loki from stabbing him by using the space stone.
Yeah, you can like manipulate space. Like
Yeah,
he turned the Hulkbuster invisible and put it into a brick wall and then
that would
made
have
it.
been reality, I think.
Mm.
Like it
I
would
thought
have.
I thought he was blue. He was all blue when it was around him though. I
Oh,
thought it
maybe
manipulated. I thought it like manipulated his space and put it into a different space. Like that's what I
it
got
could have
from
been
it.
a combination of the stones, like
True.
using the
Yeah.
space stone to move him, and then
Hmm.
using the reality stone to make him intangible.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fair.
I don't
Um.
really know what the soul stone or the yeah, I guess it's just the soul stone, right? What the hell does the soul stone do?
The Soul Stone. Well, we watched Thanos use it to knock Doctor Strange uh out of his astral form. Like he knocked him out of his astral form for a
Hmm.
moment. So
Okay.
you can knock people out of their astro form. I think
Okay.
that's what it was called.
Yep.
And I think that's how you like can access like that's how he was able to when he snaps his fingers. The soul part is what allows him to whatever he's thinking about allows him to actually manipulate all individual souls, I believe, like all different people. And
Gotcha. Yeah.
the mind stone is activated by your thoughts. That's why connecting
You
them
can
all is
also
really
control
cool.
people with the mind
Yeah.
stone. Yeah.
The power stone.
And you can also shoot laser beams out of the mind stone.
Yeah, apparently. Yeah, apparently. The power stone can
Just make you
uh
strong.
it makes it's strong, but I
Yeah.
also read that the power stone with all the others, it increases all of their powers.
Yes, so yes, that is very true. There is a Marvel kind of went through like a rebranding of the Infinity Stones after the movie because the
Mhm.
movies had different colors and different powers compared to the Infinity Gems from the comics.
Right,
So
right. I
to make
remember.
things
Yeah.
more in line with the movies, they kind of rebranded the Infinity Stones, and it made sense in the context of where Marvel was at. This was after Infinity, or no, sorry, after Secret Wars actually, which is
Yeah.
what the MCU is leading up to, where just the world and reality was different. So it's sort of like the universe was being reborn, so the
Yeah.
stones were kind of being reborn, right?
Yeah.
But in their explanation, like this is the new way the stones work. If this stone is paired with this stone, then it does this. So it kind of like they kind of work together, the stones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I know that they had like a thing that you could like they all had like a power like a combo
Hmm.
together, but I remember reading that the Power Stone it was the most powerful of all the Power Stone or
Yeah.
all of the Infinity Stones,
Hmm.
but it also when combined with the other ones, it increased all of their powers. So I thought that
Yes.
was really cool.
When they
That's why like he was able to do it on like a universal scale. He could just snap his
yeah,
fingers and I
in
damage
the
everything.
comics when it was like a rebranded thing, it reappeared as its pure like powered self and reappeared as like a giant mountain. It was like this big huge structure and they had to like do something to like shrink it down or like this um like destroy it into an actual stone, right?
Hmm.
So that's kind of cool to see that represented.
Yeah.
Um my
That's
theory
it.
based on the
Right. That
trailers here. Okay, yeah.
Really quickly, the other thing, the ether is like a liquid form, right? And it needs the space stone to turn it into a stone. Because like the
I don't think it
ether,
needs that. The
I
space
was told
stone.
that the ether was because it's a liquid. Remember, they had to inject her to get the ether out. The ether only turns into an actual stone, like the reality stone, when it's close to the space stone, and then it turns into a stone. That's what I read. So I don't know if
Hmm,
that's true or not. Because otherwise,
possibly
how do
because
you turn the ether into a stone otherwise? Because I was like, oh, I guess that makes sense. So I was like, whatever.
that could make sense because Thanos had the space stone
Got
when he got the reality
the
stone.
ether when you got the ether from whatever. So that's the only thing I was told. I read. I don't. I'm sure if I Google it, it'll probably come up or something. But what's your theory?
Just based on the trailers and stuff, pretty sure Loki's going to time slip his way out of there.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah.
I wonder if yeah, it's gonna have to be something where he time slips. Maybe the past self of him can time slip and fix the past before.
Hmm.
It's just so weird because the TVA doesn't work the same as like the time doesn't work the same in the TVA, or there's no time
Yeah,
in the
but the
TVA. It doesn't.
TVA, it seems like you can change. what happens in the TVA, or at least Loki can when Loki time slips.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like the sacred timeline. It works on its own time travel rules.
Yeah.
So it is possible that he could change events on where things end up.
Mm.
There's also another possibility that Renslayer, after she survives the void, finds a way to go back and save everybody. I don't know.
Yeah. Hmm. I really
Um,
want to watch. I really want to watch this episode because it's like so crazy. But I only have to wait. Then what's today? Today's Monday. We just have to
Today's
wait.
Monday, yeah.
Still have to wait 2 more days for Thursday. Or
Yeah.
yeah, Thursday. 3 more days.
Want to talk about Echo?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. We can go
Did
to
you have
Echo.
any other things on Loki?
No, I don't think so. The only thing, like, I was trying to think of what my thoughts were going forward.
Yeah.
The time slipping is a good. That's probably what's going to have to happen,
Yeah.
unless like the only thing I couldn't. I don't remember if it fully exploded. Like I know you said it did, but like my brain was like I thought it was like at its like critical like
Yeah, go
meltdown point,
watch
and
it
like
again.
yeah, someone's gonna have to like fix it somehow. Otherwise, it is gonna be like it's
It
gonna
looked like it
time
was
slip.
imploding and then exploding. So
Yeah. So unless they have a contingency plan that like can contain the blast in there, I don't know.
I
But
don't think so.
I really like the Infinity
Yeah.
idea, man. Like let me see something. Let me see Loki finally get his stones and start using them. Like let's
Yeah.
go make an Infinity Gauntlet and let's go.
So a new trailer came out the other day. I can't remember which day it was. Um and it's for Echo. It seems like the one series other than Agatha multi-title of madness. Um Echo seemed like the show that everybody didn't care about. And I was saying from the beginning, you're all crazy. Because Echo is a cool character from the comics. I
Yeah,
thought she did her. I thought it was awesome character in Hawkeye. Would like to see more, and I think this bridges the gap for stuff coming up, particularly Daredevil, and maybe other things that we might see. So a trailer came out, and it seems like the internet loves it. What did you think of the Echo trailer?
I liked it. Um, Makes sense to have uh, I forget his name, Fisk.
Yeah,
What's his
Wilson
first name?
Fisk.
Wilson. Wilson Fisk.
Kingpin.
Narrate it, and we're gonna see him in it. I like the actor a lot. I just don't really care for Fisk, and I know I brought that up a lot. So I'm hoping this can kind of I don't know, make me enjoy him more. I guess,
Yeah,
but I really like the trailer. It gave me more of like a Daredevil vibe, or like it's gonna be like more like uh brought back down to earth, because I think we were talking about that before, how I'm
yeah.
kind of I'm spaced out, I'm multiverse out. I just want something where we're
More
just gonna
grounded. Yeah,
yeah,
this is
just
it.
grounded
This is
level.
it, man.
Yeah, so that's why I'm excited for that.
And I
So
think
that'll
it's
be
5 episodes, and they're all airing at once. So we
let's
can
see.
watch the whole series. Just talk about the series as a whole.
See, that'll make me happy if I can
Yeah,
just watch it all at once. I'll
just
enjoy
binge
that.
it.
I think more. Yeah, like because that's like it's kind of what I did with Loki, or not Loki. Sorry. With Hawkeye, because
Yeah,
Hawkeye, I had so much going on during Christmas that I didn't get to. Me and Jess just watched it all in a day because it all
yeah.
had come out. So we were able to watch it all. It was really good. I think I'll be more excited for Echo once I watch Hawkeye again, because I think now it's
Mm-hmm.
been. When did I watch Hawkeye? Was
It
that last winter or
no,
two
no,
winters ago?
because last year was the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. So the
Yeah,
year before was Hawkeye.
yeah, which makes
Which is
sense because
crazy,
last
man. It does feel like it was a year ago.
yeah, I remember why, because it was because what is Clint Bartman's name? I can't remember it right now.
Hawkeye or the
Jeremy
actor
Renner.
Jeremy
Jeremy
Renner. Yeah,
Renner. So Jeremy Renner was in the news last Christmas because
yeah,
he was, or last New Year's because he was of his injuries. That's why I was thinking of
yeah.
him last year. So yeah, so now with Hawkeye, I think with me and Jess will probably watch it all again, and then it'll get us more excited for Echo. Um,
Yeah.
so but yeah, that's the thing. That's why I'm most excited for it, is because it's gonna be grounded. So I'm like, cool. I can just have like a vigilante,
Hmm.
motorcycle punch, fight 'em up, shoot 'em up movie. That's all I really want from Marvel right now. Um, that, and I'm kind of waiting for the next Captain America movie, whenever that is supposed to be
Yep.
again. I forget.
It's probably delayed. I don't know. Everything keeps getting delayed.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
my points are kind of converge with like my thoughts on the trailer and the show and my excitement for it kind of converge with a tired old argument that we've been having on and off, not us, but us with the internet, about where the MCU stands with the non-Marvel Studios MCU projects, particularly the Defenders saga from Netflix, because just like anything else, I'm getting a lot of conflicting vibes here. Like, first of all, they changed the logo to, or like the font for Echo to more closely match the Defenders font from Netflix. So it's like, okay. Secondly, I mean, they're bringing back Wilson Fisk. Thirdly, um, there's a shot in here, you might have missed it, of Daredevil jumping through something.
yeah,
It was a very quick shot. He was in his old classic red suit from the Netflix series. And fourthly, this looks very Netflix Defenders style violent. It's TVMA. It's
yeah,
going to be like I think it's going to be a more brutal show than Moon Knight.
yeah,
Um so everything here seems like, oh, this is like this show feels like it could have fit with the Netflix, like the other Netflix shows, Jessica Jones, Punisher, Iron Fist, Luke Cage. It feels like it's part of that series,
yeah,
especially with characters that were part of that series, right?
yeah. I think that's why I'm kind of happy for it
Yeah.
again. I think if I can get,
Well, let
if
me
I can get,
crush your dreams here.
oh no,
Because, first of all, they're labeling this as a new thing called Spotlight. And the intention behind Spotlight is that it's a series that you don't need to have any prior MCU knowledge to watch.
oh, that's probably not gonna have a lot
That
of going into
indicates that you don't need to know anything else, including the Netflix shows or the
yeah,
Hawkeye show. Although I would argue maybe you do, because it gives context to Wilson Fisk's eye, because
yeah,
that's where he was shot.
yeah.
Um, and secondly, a lot of outlets, I think Nerdist was the one saying, or IGN, saying this is the first show to do that. No, Moon Knight was. Did you need to know anything about the MCU to watch Moon Knight?
I do not think so.
No.
Um, no, I don't think a single character was in. Like, it's been a while since I watched Moon Knight, but I don't
Yeah.
think a single character interloped with it in any way,
Yeah.
intertwined with it. I just think, yeah, I don't think so.
Second thing to indicate that this is not canon to the Netflix shows, a book was recently released. We talked about this book recently. It's called the MCU Timeline. Um, Now, this is not really definitive, but I feel like it is. In that book, just get rid of this here. There's an excerpt in that book. Let's see if I can read it here. I'm gonna pull up X, and hopefully it works. There's this blurb in the book. It says, on the multiverse note, this is from Kevin Feige. My stance has always been anything that said it was part of the MCU from the past, including the Netflix shows,
Yeah,
is still part of the MCU until Kevin Feige or Marvel says it's not. I
yeah,
still hold that stance. I think you still hold that stance.
yeah.
Um, I'm kind of reversed on it now because of this, but I'll like to know what your thoughts are. In this book from Kevin Feige, he says, on the multiverse note, we recognize that there are stories, movies, and series that are canonical to Marvel but were created by different storytellers during different periods of Marvel's history. The timeline presented in this book is specific to the MCU's sacred timeline through phase 4. But as we move forward and dive deeper into the multiverse saga, you never know when the timelines may just crash or converge. Hint, hint, slash spoiler alert. I think that's just referring to Secret Wars. We're gonna see past Marvel shows and stuff show up in Secret Wars, or that can be referring to Deadpool because of all the rumors for Deadpool returning actors and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, to me, I don't know how you feel, but to me that sounds like none of that stuff is canon until they say it is. It's like the opposite of what I was feeling before.
Yeah. I don't know. I like the other way better.
Me too. I don't understand why they just don't keep it canon because
I,
there's nothing that like it is a problem, especially if they're keeping the actors, they're keeping the costumes. Like they're like, what is the big deal about keeping it canon?
I feel like that's their contingency in case people really don't like the direction they're going with something, in case they need to scrap
Ah,
something, like,
yes, the Iron
like,
Fist clause.
yeah. That is basically like, oh, you guys didn't
Yeah,
like Thor: Love and Thunder? Well, it doesn't matter. It didn't really mean anything. We don't. It's not a part of anything.
I don't
Like
think it's
that.
referring to Thor: Love and Thunder. I think it's
No,
referring
I
to
know.
like the Marvel Studios stuff. But
I'm referring to Thor: Love and Thunder. We can just pretend that one
yes,
didn't exist. The only thing that cool came out of Thor: Love and Thunder was Jane Foster being the Mighty Thor. Is that what we call her? Mighty
yeah.
Thor.
I wish it was written differently. That's it. I didn't really
There's
have a huge problem with that movie. Just
No, it needed to be
terrible
written
writing.
differently. That's the only thing I liked, but was that we got to see Jane Foster as Thor.
Yep.
I thought it was cool that Mjolnir could explode and then reform. Was very cool.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw Chris Hemsworth's butt. That's about the only three things I enjoyed about Thor: Love and Thunder.
Visual and everything was great. Script was not. I think I'm fine with Taika Waititi continuing with directing Thor
Yeah, just
because
make his
Ragnarok was
jokes
awesome
good.
and I liked a
Yeah.
lot of what I saw in Love and Thunder.
Mhm.
But he shouldn't be writing the script anymore. Give it to
No.
somebody else.
Oh,
Sorry, Taika.
Ragnarok was fantastic.
Yeah.
Love and Thunder was just like the jokes were they're too repetitive. When a joke
Was
is
it
like
worse
three times
than
in a movie,
was it worse than Thor 2?
yeah, I'd rather watch Thor 2. I think I went over that. I'll watch Thor
Yeah.
2 right now. I'll watch it twice back to back if instead of watching Thor: Love and
I
Thunder.
don't know, man. Like Thor 2 is kind of, and I'm a defender of Thor 2.
Oh, I don't
I
wanna
think
listen
it's
to
a
those
good
goats
movie.
scream 18 times though, dude.
That's fair. I'm a defender of Thor 2. I didn't think it was as bad as everybody says it was, but I will concede I think it's one of the more boring Marvel movies.
It absolutely is,
Yeah.
but I
At
think it's
least
just
I
because
had
it's
some fun with Love and Thunder, so I don't know. I feel
they're
like I
yeah,
might want to watch Love and Thunder more, but I've also seen Thor 2 many more times. So at
yeah,
this point, like I don't want to watch it anymore.
yeah.
And maybe I do want to watch Love and Thunder a bit more, but I maybe I'll flip like on certain days.
There's moments I like in Thor: Love and Thunder. It just didn't go in the direction I was hoping for it because it had so much potential with the Guardians and they
Mm-hmm.
were barely used. And we said goodbye to them so quickly. And I'm like, oh, you could have done like a quarter of the movie with them and made it so much
Yeah,
more fun. And then you made
I think a lot of
Thor,
things changed though.
yeah. Well,
'Cause
Thor went all hippie, and then
yeah.
he just it basically just felt like he made a movie for his kids, which is what it
Well,
was.
yeah. Originally, I mean, so many of so much of the production timeline and plans have changed within Phase 4 or 5 of the MCU because Guardians of the Galaxy was supposed to happen before Thor. And they had to change that because they uh for some stupid reason fired James Gunn, and that was like their worst decision ever.
Yeah.
Backfired completely. And then also pandemic and also that all that other stuff, right? Um, but yeah. Any final thoughts on Echo? I'm just excited. Like it seems like a cool, different. I think a lot of people are feeling like you. There's too much weird concept stuff in the MCU. They're looking for the more grounded stuff that we're used to, and this seems like it. But also kind of like Netflix feel, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I did like all the Netflix shows, the Defenders, all of them. I liked them all, even though Iron Fist wasn't like the most popular.
Did you watch season
I
two?
no, I didn't watch season 2, but I
Season two
remember
is great.
enjoying. I remember enjoying Iron Fist so much. Like I was like, oh my god, I was like on the edge of my seat watching the whole thing, and then as soon as I was finished with the show, like I had
Yeah.
forgotten everything about it. So it was like I
Not
remember
that
being
memorable, yeah.
loving it, and then I was like, ah, they didn't do anything else with the character, so I completely just like that whole part of my brain was just wiped away. So I
Yeah.
really don't remember it that much, and now I just remember it being like, I think it was okay. Like I already forget. So
Yeah, a lot of the season
um,
1 stuff isn't memorable, but I did like a lot of the stuff in season 2.
I will.
And it
I
left off a
was
great cliffhanger. It's like, damn, season 3 is going to be amazing, and then they just cancel it.
uh, see. I will be. I think I'm excited for Echo now. I wasn't as excited before, but after watching that
Mhm.
trailer, I was like, yeah, it does have like a Daredevil
Yeah.
more vibe to it, or Defenders. I'm hoping with when we saw his knuckles all bloody, I'm hoping it's a little bit more violent. Maybe it probably won't get as dark as the Punisher, but if we can keep it at least close to the Punisher or close to Daredevil, that will draw my
This might
attention.
be a test for
Yeah,
Punisher, you know?
yeah.
They might want to see like how far they can push it and be like, are we going to lose audiences because it's a Marvel show but it's also mature,
It should
right?
be mature. Like, there's
Yeah.
some parts in Marvel that should be mature. Like, I think
Yeah, I
Loki and
agree.
Carnage should be like those should have
Yeah.
been mature rated movies. Like,
But I get it
um,
because these are comic book characters, right? Not saying that comic books can't be gritty, but they're superheroes, right? Like
yeah,
we've seen gritty comic book adaptations, The Boys, Kick Ass,
yeah.
stuff like that. So
And The
this can
Boys is
absolutely work.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I got a boys comic book and it has nudity in it. It has wieners and stuff.
Yeah,
Like, it's
I mean Jessica
crazy. So
Jones started off that way too, or when they
yeah,
like revitalized the character or something. She was in a comic, like a new comic line called Max, where
yeah,
everything was like adult themed.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, they can absolutely do that with these shows, and I think Punisher worked, Daredevil worked. Um, but I think this is like the inception of Disney Plus was it's going to be the family friendly streaming app.
yeah,
And then you have stuff like Marvel, and it's like, well, we kind of want to be outside of that. And now it sounds like Disney's trying to acquire all of Hulu, like they're trying to buy
yeah,
everything outright. So this series is going to stream all at once on Disney Plus if you have the mature rated thing enabled on your account.
yeah.
But if not, it's also going to be on Hulu. So, and I don't think you have to worry about that on Hulu. So, I think that might be their test bed. Like, hey, if this works, let's bring back Punisher and drop it all as like a all one series on Hulu. We're gonna get more audiences that way.
Um, yeah, because like I just the way I see it is like I know that like comic books are also for kids and they're like for all ages, depending or
Mhm.
whatever. But like I grew up like in high school, we started to see like a lot more of like the Fantastic Four. And we grew up with Spider Man, like the other ones, and then we had like Iron Man, and then I started following all the stuff from Iron Man on, and now I'm 30, and I want to see more like I want to see some more of the mature comic book stuff that we have out there. When I talk to people who are like in their early 20s, I'm like, "Do you guys like follow the Marvel stuff?" They're usually like, "No."
Mhm.
I always get people who are like not into that at all. So I'm like, maybe Disney should go like start affecting the people who have been following it all the way through. Like make it more like I don't want a kids movie. I don't want Love and Thunder. Like I get having that for other audiences, but there's already older stuff that they can watch that isn't violent for them. Like there is that stuff. And I'm not saying like I didn't enjoy Love and Thunder because it was a kids movie, but I'm not saying it's the worst idea either because I know they want to draw in other um, demographics or whatever as well. But like I don't see why they can't make Echo. Like Echo's not really that like well known of a character, like at least as far as I know.
No, she's not.
But yeah, so make her violent then. Make people fucking like her. Like I want to see like a violent Electra movie, like a series. Like that'd be sweet. Uh
Oh, if it's not canon, they can make
like
an Electro series. So,
my girlfriend doesn't love violent stuff that much, but
hmm
we watched all of Dare. All I made her watch all of the Punisher, and she loves season 1 and season 2 of Punisher. She thought those were the best ones of the like all of
yeah,
them. She was bored with the other ones. We haven't watched them all together. I'm trying to convince her to go back and watch them. I was like, uh, Daredevil was phenomenal. I love Daredevil. Luke Cage. has slow moments for me, and I don't think I watched all the seasons.
Yeah.
Jessica Jones was awesome in the beginning. I don't remember if it was really that violent or not, but I thought Kilgrave was an awesome villain.
Jessica Jones is violent.
Yeah, okay, so that's why I remember liking those because they were violent. Like you had the violent shows. There's animated cartoon heroes for kids and stuff too
Yep.
that don't need to watch violence. So they have like
Well,
hundreds of Spider-Man
there's
stuff.
also
So
violent animated cartoons. There's
yeah,
Invincible just started a new season. Harley Quinn's still going on.
I like
Um,
Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn is pretty good. I got into that. I think I'm on season 2 or 3. It's pretty good. But
great show.
everyone keeps telling me to watch Invincible. I don't like the animation look of it, but I'll have to try and give it a
Yeah,
shot.
stick around through episode 1, but all the way through episode 1. And then
For
you're gonna,
Invincible?
yeah, because you're gonna watch the show and you're gonna be like, I don't know if this is for me.
Yeah.
But when you get to the end of the episode, you're gonna decide if you want to keep watching it or not.
See, yeah. But
Uh,
I think that's a good direction for Marvel. Make some stuff, I don't care if people don't like violent stuff, then don't watch that season. There will be other stuff for you. There'll be other
mhm.
things that for you that's not for me. Like I don't Love and Thunder is for
Yeah,
you.
I think
Not for me.
it's
So
clear they're quieting a wide net because they
yeah,
have this show, then they
yeah,
also have She-Hulk, and
yeah,
they have I Am Groot. I mean, they have like so many different things that they're working on. Um,
yeah,
so yeah, I mean, I think there's an audience for this kind of stuff. We're the
yeah,
audience.
yeah.
Give it to, I don't like a lot of violent stuff either, but I thought those were some of my favorite Marvel shows.
Oh,
So
yeah, I knew nothing about The Boys, and my friends like just watch the first 5 minutes of of episode 1. You'll be hooked, and it
yeah.
is like probably my favorite show. It is so fucking good. I love how gory it is. I love how inappropriate it is. Like it's a fucking crazy ride. Like it's wild. So it's fun, but I
Yeah.
get not. We don't need to watch that all the time. I can go and
Yeah.
watch an easy show. I like my
Hmm.
comedies. I like my non-violent shows too. So
Oh yeah,
there's
looking forward to
it,
rewatching Hawkeye
so I'm hoping they can do
with the
that with
Christmas
yeah,
feel.
because Hawkeye is a good one too.
Yeah.
It's kind of for kids too. I don't remember there being any violent stuff in it. It was more like
No,
jokey.
it's all like PG-13 violence,
Yeah,
just like yeah.
yeah.
Um, there's some other stuff that came out of the book, but since we're on the mature rated things, something that happened today is that it's announced that Blade will be R rated. I didn't even have a chance to read this today because it like just happened. Um, but yeah, Blade movie is coming to Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is from Nerdist. And let's see, where's their source here? Oh, this is from the director. The director offered a brief statement about his experience with Blade. It's been a minute. Blade's been a beautiful ride. At this moment, I'm filled with love and gratitude towards the folks at Marvel, as well as the incredible crew and cast we assembled. I'm eager to support. I'm eager to support and see how the next director builds on the foundation we've set. Oh yeah, that's right. They're getting a new director. That's right. This guy left the project. I'll now be joining the project as an EP as I move on to what's next. Interesting. Okay. According to the Hollywood Reporter, True Detective creator Nick uh, Pizzolatto has recently joined the project to work off of Starbury script. Okay. Where's the source that this is going to be R rated? I wish I had time
Uh,
to release it. Okay, according to Nerdist, I can't find the source that they're quoting, but it sounds like Blade will be R rated.
that'd be cool. That'll get me more into it. I can't even remember the old Blade movies, but I remember they fought vampires. I think.
Oh, here we go. Movies director. Yeah, okay, so they got a new director recently confirmed. From Deadline, it sounds like that it's rated R.
Mm.
Cool. Do we need a rated R Blade?
I'll take it. I like rated R stuff. Like you gotta try different stuff because
Yeah.
a lot of their like other like Ant Man and Quantumania is friendly. Love and Thunder is friendly. All these friendly stuff they need to just I think they need to keep some of the people who are our age that want to watch like the stuff we grew up with. So
What were the other ones?
the other what?
The other Blade movies. What were they rated?
I don't know. I honestly I think I only watched one. And I watched it a long time ago. How many
Okay.
are there? There's 3 other ones.
There's three of them. Yeah. Because
Jesus.
they're sure they're violent. He's killing vampires, but they like it's not like he's like dismembering vampires or anything. They're like disintegrating into ash.
Is Ryan Reynolds in one of those movies?
He's in the third one.
I don't remember. I don't remember any of this. I have a
It's very
memory.
cheesy, like like very cheesy action and fighting. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they're PG-13, but I think a lot of the language was more for rated R. So
Yeah.
I I can see Blade working either way. Um, I think I'm gonna save some stuff for the next podcast, but I did want to bring up for the book stuff, the two books that came out.
Yeah.
The timeline book, apparently, according to IGN here, which has an ad for my music, apparently.
Yeah.
So many ads for my music. Um, a new Marvel Cinematic Universe timeline book has cleared up a major continuity error in 2017 Spider-Man: Homecoming. Remember when they said 8 years later and it made no sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So apparently they fixed that.
Hmm.
So let's see. It says yeah, so Miss Minutes, that's right. So Miss Minutes is in the page for that, right? And she says, "Hey, red line alert. Hi again. Adrian Toombs says the Battle of New York was 8 years ago, but that event was only 4 years prior. This one's a real head scratcher for us. I reckon an analyst misplaced the case file."
Hmm.
So that's how they
Interesting.
explain the 8 years later continuity error.
Okay, wait, hang on.
Yeah.
Wait, what? When was it 8 years later? Now I'm trying to remember
So
when
when
did it, in
when
what part?
they said in Spider-Man: Homecoming, Adrian Toombs was at the wreckage of the Battle of New York, 2012.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and then his daughter has like a drawing or something, and then it says 8 years later, and it shows his business and everything booming.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that would have been 2020. After the events of Infinity War.
Yeah. Because I remember doing the math on that
Yeah,
because the Battle of New York happened in 2012.
yeah.
That's when the Avengers came out.
Mm-hmm.
So 8 years later, yeah, it would have been 2020 when it was supposed to be Spider-Man. I think came out in 2016, 2015, the first Spider-Man movie.
I
So it should have been.
yeah, I
Let me
don't.
just look really quick. Spider-Man Homecoming.
Mm-hmm.
2017. So it
Yeah,
really should only have been
the
5 years
movie,
later.
according to this, the movie should have been the movie was taking place in 2016, but
Okay.
the
Yeah.
8 years, that one 8 years later line made it way further than it needed to be.
Yeah, it wasn't
Um,
supposed to.
so um, yeah, there's been some references in some of the movies following that with
Yeah.
Spider-Man from some characters, and like off comments, like, "Oh, this happened so many years ago" or whatever. Like that completely contradicts what the movie said. So
Yeah.
they've been trying to retcon that ever since the movie came out, and now they have a book saying like, "Yeah, this movie made no sense."
No, it makes sense as long as it's not 8 years later. Like
Yeah, but
Spider-Man.
it says 8 years later, so that's why it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, they just I would just say it was a typo and just say it was 5 years later because it makes sense that
It's four.
okay, yeah, if you want to do 2016, it says the movie was released in 2017, but if it's supposed to be 2016, then that's fine because it was supposed to be when did but Civil War happened in 2015. So that makes sense then.
Yeah, yeah.
Because as long as Civil War happened first
hmm
and then Homecoming happened after
After that,
Civil War
yep.
because we there's references to Civil War in it, so we know it's after that.
hmm
And then it has to do with that guy's business booming because he's selling all of any material he could get from the wreckage of New York, all the materials and the alien tech, and he's
Yep.
building weapons with it. So that it has to be 2016, at the very least 2017. Um, but yeah, it makes sense for it to be 2016 because 2017 is when Thor Ragnarok happens, and then from Thor Ragnarok, it just goes into um,
Yeah.
everything with the snap and all that stuff. So everything's fall time. Also, someone was like, I remember somebody like somebody yelled at me because they were like, it's not in our time, dude. Like you think this technology and stuff exists in our real world? I was like, dude, it's a fake reality. None of this is real,
Yeah.
but it is supposed to take place in our timeline. He's like, no, it doesn't. I'm like, yeah, it does. And then like
No.
we had this whole argument after Endgame. And I'm like, watch Endgame. It literally tells you the years they travel back to.
No, yeah,
Like when the Guardians of the
it's
Galaxy first
not
hit, it says
it's
those
not
years.
it's not our timeline, but it is
Yes, it's our years.
yes, our years, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
But
So
it's
someone
it's
was
it's
arguing
its
with me.
own universe that
Yeah.
is taking place in a similar I guess timeline and series of events as our real life timeline. Yes.
It could just be our timeline with we have
It's not
whatever.
because
It could.
we didn't as much as the pandemic sucked, we didn't experience a 5-year snap. you
No,
know?
I know, but
Yeah.
but you know what I mean. No, I know that. I
Yeah.
understand. It's still. It could be
Also,
our life, but
if you
it's
watch
fake, guys.
She-Hulk and think about it, um the the MCU exists is a created multiverse that exists within our universe
Yeah,
as it literally is. So it literally is just a series of movies and TV shows and stuff. And that's what the universe is.
yeah.
So
It was just weird the way someone was arguing with me about it. I can't remember what that was, but
yeah.
I was like, yeah, it was. The Battle of New York happened in 2012, and he was like, "No, it had nothing to do with our actual times." He's like, "That's probably happened in like 2050 because
Oh,
it's
you're
not
saying
supposed to be in the
the
future."
years in the movies don't mean anything.
Like
Yeah.
somebody was arguing me that like he's like these movies could not happen in 2012, 2014, 2016. He's like they couldn't happen then because that technology doesn't
He's saying
exist
they
yet.
happen in the future?
Yes, he's saying this person said that they happen in the future. I'm like, "No, dude.
No.
This is a fake universe with smart people who
Yeah.
invented this stuff in
we
these
don't we
time
don't
years
have a
that
real
don't
life
exist."
Tony we don't have a real
Yeah.
life Tony Stark. As much
Yeah.
as Elon Musk compares himself to him, we
Yeah.
don't have a real life Tony Stark.
That's what the person was arguing about.
Yeah.
He's like obviously this has to be in the future because we don't have that kind of technology. Yeah. And I was like cuz we don't have these people in
They
real life
say they
to
say
develop this technology.
2012
Yeah, it says
in the
2012 on the
movie.
thing. Yeah. I was like, dude, it's all fake. There is also not a guy who's in high school jumping, swinging around from building to building. I was like, doesn't matter what fucking year he is, if it's 40 years from now or not. I was like, it's happening
Independence Day
in this
didn't
place.
have isn't in present day because clearly happens in the future. We haven't seen aliens yet.
Yeah, yeah, it was so weird. So someone was arguing with me about that, and I was like, "Yo!" And then in Endgame, it showed. I was like, "Go watch Endgame. It literally tells you the years." I was like,
Yeah.
"This is fake, by the way. None of this actually happened. There was no Battle
Yeah.
of New York in 2012." But
Yeah, it's not a
in Marvel universe,
documentary.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There's somebody
Fictional
argued with me.
movie.
I think it was online or something. Somebody argued with me about it. And they're like, "Obviously, this
Oh
hasn't
yeah,
happened."
I get people arguing with
Oh,
me
so
about MCU shit all the time. Not so much now because I've left the
yeah.
cesspool that is
Was like
X.
Marvel kept up with everything throughout our years, but now technically they are 5 years ahead of us. So
Well,
now
no, now they're caught up. I think I'm pretty sure they're caught up to where we are now.
no, because 2023, remember just like last week is when Tony snapped his finger.
Yes.
So technically they are 5 years ahead of us because it was 2023 for
Well,
them.
damn.
Yeah. So
Maybe they
now
need to slow down.
yeah, that's why I liked it when they had everything. I
Yeah.
liked it when they had everything like lined up with years because then I can remember, oh yeah, the Battle of New York was 2012. The snap was in 2018. And now I'm like, oh fuck, when was Thor Love and Thunder? For us, it was 2022 or whatever, but like for in their years, it's like 2026 or something now. I'm like, fuck, now I forget. So now I have to like now I have to like go up 5 years from each movie, but it was or whatever they want to, whichever era they want to put the movie when it was supposed to come out, whatever. It's all jumbled up now, but um,
I
yeah,
wanna.
like Black Widow, I think came out in 2020, but it was set technically supposed to be takes place in 2015, like after Civil War.
Yeah,
So
I would have been after Civil War, before Infinity War.
yeah,
Um, I just want to wrap up some of the other book stuff. Um, and the other things we can save for another time, because it's late. Um,
yeah,
so this is the last story I found from Uh, this isn't from the timeline book. This is from like the behind the scenes book. I want to get both of these and just read them, but um, there's apparently two people that Kevin Feige will never work with or involve in MCU projects going forward.
Ooh.
Do you have any idea of who that might be?
Is it actors or other directors or
Yes,
like it's actors or
it is
both? It's
both
one
of
of
those
each.
things. Yes,
Both of
one
those
of
things.
each, one of each.
Kevin Feige.
Yeah.
I feel like I've probably heard this before. If I had a guess,
Okay.
he probably won't work with the director who filmed Thor 2,
Okay.
maybe?
I think wasn't that Patty Jenkins for
Is the guy who played Professor Lockhart from
Oh,
Harry
okay,
Potter, I think.
hold on.
I think that's what
Thor 2
I was
director.
told.
I thought Thor 2 was Oh yeah, okay, Adam Taylor.
The guy from Harry Potter. That's all I know.
This is I just put Thor 2 director. This guy right here.
Thor
Thor of the
2.
Dark World.
Maybe he did something else. Uh, maybe he was a writer.
Okay.
I don't know.
Either way, that's not the answer.
Okay. Actor. Is it somebody I'll know, or is it somebody like in a show
Mhm.
that's yeah.
You'll know.
Hmm.
I
I
will
don't
say
know.
I will say
I don't.
these are the two names are phase 1.
Phase 1. Okay. Because I was gonna say, I was like, they probably won't work with the person who did Hulk or She-Hulk because it didn't do well. But
No, I think Marvel's fine with that.
Kevin Feige won't work with these people again. The only person I know there was beef with was the guy who did War Machine first, the first movie of War Machine. But I think Tony Stark, I think Robert Downey Jr. and him had beef. I think that was it. Who wouldn't he work with again?
There was beef with that actor, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was between two actors though. I didn't know if it was between Kevin and
I think it was with him in Marvel.
Feige. Oh. I don't know. Give me a hint
For which one?
for the actor.
For the actor?
Yeah.
They were recast.
Mm. Who else was recast in Phase 1? War Machine and was it Hulk? Is it the Hulk
It's
guy?
Edward Norton, yeah,
Edward
is
Norton?
the
Yeah,
actor.
okay. All right. Those are the only two people I know who were recast in Phase 1. So it's just the War Machine and Hulk. So
Yeah.
so Kevin Feige won't work with Ed Norton?
He will not work with Edward Norton apparently.
Huh.
Do you have any idea of the director?
I don't. I don't know my directors that well. So unless it was like someone who did She-Hulk or Thor 2 or something, like I don't
No,
know.
it's phase 1. That would be Joss Whedon, the director of Avengers. So he apparently will not work with them again. This is from CBR.
Who's
In
Joss
the
Whedon?
Joss Whedon directed Avengers and Avengers Age of Ultron. He worked on Buffy, Firefly. He worked on Justice League after Zack Snyder had to step away.
Oh,
He
but I love the Avengers was so good, and I
Yep,
thought both the first two
but
Avengers were so good.
also Joss Whedon has been in the news in the past few years for not so great reasons. So
Oh, well then there you
um
go. I thought it was so, I don't about work wise. Not
yeah,
I
the
assume
Joss Whedon, I think both of these are not in regards to work, but like the person themselves. So like this is from CBR. It says in the new tell-all book MCU: The Reign of Marvel Studios by Joanna Robinson, Dave Gonzalez, and Gavin Edwards, the rise and dominance of the MCU is intricately detailed, going through decades of Marvel's on-screen history. The book is also delves into the behind-the-scenes issues that have occurred with various projects, leading to two names getting banned from the MCU by Kevin Feige. Um, it's noted in the book if the Inhumans, this is a quote, I guess. If the Inhumans could be rehabilitated, apparently everyone in MCU history was on Feige's call list, except Edward Norton. I think they're referring to like Black Bolt appearing to in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, because that's the only context I can think of for that sentence. But they're saying like if like and Inhumans was like a notoriously criticized show, and like everybody hated it, but they still brought
Yeah.
on the actor to replay Black Bolt anyway. So they're saying if the Inhumans could be rehabilitated, apparently everyone in the MCU history was on Kevin Feige's call list, to bring back, except Edward Norton, the franchise's first Bruce Banner, and Joss Whedon, whose Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. characters remain in limbo. These may not be the biggest shockers. Edward Norton's troubles behind the scenes of The Incredible Hulk were well documented, as the actor had very different ideas for what the movie should be. They managed to get through production on the film, though Hulk was promptly recast with Mark Ruffalo taking over the role for subsequent MCU projects. At the time, Feige has released a public statement announcing Norton's exit from the role. That at the so the quote at the time was, "We have made the decision not bring Ed Norton back to portray the title role of Bruce Banner in the Avengers. Our decision is definitely not one based on monetary factors, but instead rooted in the need for an actor who embodies the creativity and collaborative spirit of our other talented cast members. The Avengers demands players who thrive working as part of an ensemble, as evidenced by Robert Downey Jr., Chris Hemsworth, Chris Evans, Samuel L. Jackson, Scarlett Johansson, and all of our talented cast."
Mm.
Feige and Joss Whedon are also said to have butted heads over Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So I think that, okay, if that's the case, then maybe Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. also not probably going to be canon anymore.
Yeah.
The
Good
Marvel
enough.
Television series. The book suggests that Feige wasn't happy with what Whedon was doing with the series, as the existence of S.H.I.E.L.D. contradicted the events of Captain America the Winter Soldier, but they fixed that in the show, so I don't know what they're talking about. That may also tie into what Feige wrote in the foreword to another new, and this is the quote that I said earlier, saying like stuff made by other people are probably not canon, but we might see some convergence later on.
Hmm. I just want to fix what I said, by the way. So the guy I was thinking about from Harry Potter was Gilderoy Lockhart. That
Oh, that guy,
actor,
yeah, that actor, yeah,
that's Kenneth Branagh. I don't know if I'm saying that
yeah.
right.
Did he do the
Sorry,
first Thor?
sorry. Yes, he directed the first Thor. He was
Yeah.
supposed to direct the second one, but he said it was like a long bunch of years working on all this stuff, and he said he needed to recharge and work on something else. However, just by reading this, because I needed to figure out, because I was just thinking of that actor. Um, he voiced the Asgardian distress call in Avengers: Infinity War when the
Oh,
ship's being
cool.
torn, when the ship's being exploded, and
Oh
it
yeah,
says,
they
"This
did
is
call him
not a
back. Yeah.
warship," and all that. Yeah, it's like, I repeat, we have civilians on board or whatever. So that's cool. I just really just said it says that he voiced that anyway. So interesting. I didn't. It's cool to see him come back though. I guess I didn't know
Yeah.
he. I didn't. I only knew about that because my girlfriend loves Harry Potter, and then she found out that he plays such an idiot in that the second movie of Harry
Yeah.
Potter, that to think of him being a director throws me off. So, uh, and then just some other things I was looking at really quickly.
Mhm.
Um, when we were talking about the space stone and reality stone for when whatever his name. So I was just looking at it. It says the space stone allows the user to exist in any slash all locations, move any slash all objects anywhere through realities, warp or rearrange space, teleport themselves and others any place in the omniverse, especially in dimensions, realms, and realities. The user can imagine, increase their speed, create a patrol from one part of the, I'm assuming that means portal, from one part of something to another. But that's why, so the it's not really it's not really changing reality what he did
No.
with the Hulkbuster. It just changed his space so that he was able to just push him through objects because it can move
Hmm.
any and all objects. So
Gotcha.
that's kind of cool. And then for the reality stone, it just says uh, the reality stone is also known as the Aether, which is a fiery, floating red liquid. The Infinity Stone has the ability to represent your own desired reality. Oh, this is about Marvel comic books, but I guess it can change. I remember reading it somewhere that the Space Stone is what changes its form into a solid, or maybe you have to use the Space Stone to manipulate it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It was something between the two of them that work together so that it can. That way, the Reality Stone can change into any reality type texture that you need it to
Yeah.
work. But I think that's how they were able to extract the ether and then turn it into a solid stone for when Tony and Rocket and Bruce work on it. But anyways, that was just what I was looking at for a little
Yeah.
bit there. I needed to figure that out because I was curious why I read that before. And
Sick.
what else was in the news besides Echo
You want to go
and
into more
Loki?
news?
If we have anything, I mean, if we have anything else, we could just say we can talk
I
about it
got
next week
I
then.
got
But
three. Well, if you want to get into it now, I can. I mean, I got no plans. Just going to bed after this after. So,
well, save it for next week. I'll talk about it with
okay.
you off screen, and then we'll go through it next week. But
Okay.
are you able to stream again next Monday? And we'll do
For the podcast.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think I
Should be
have
able to.
Saturday.
Yeah.
I think I have Saturday night off. If you're able to do Saturday night.
I will have to cancel my regular stream for that.
Yeah, maybe we'll see. Because I was gonna say also if it's a Saturday night off, we could also maybe all stream like party animals or something.
Oh, for our own personal stuff.
Yeah, just play.
Yeah. I'm down for that. So if we're not, if we're not talking about news, I got a couple questions. One,
Hmm.
are we seeing the Marvels in theaters?
I'll go with you to see it. Yeah, I don't know
Okay.
what day. We'll have to pick a day to figure it
Yeah,
out.
it's
But
gonna be
if
after Loki, I think.
yeah, if
The
Aunt and Yvonne want
Marvels.
to go, they can join us. I'm sure Jess will go watch it too. We just have to watch. We
They
just have
won't
to
want to
finish
go.
watching Marvel. They won't want to go. No.
No.
What if we go like a second week or something when it's less busy?
No. Yeah, I don't necessarily want to go on opening, but it's going to be November 10th, so this week.
Okay. If you don't
Yeah.
like, I'm
Don't want to
fine
go
with
this week.
waiting until
Yeah.
we can watch it in other ways too. If you want to
I'm
wait,
I'm not I'm
otherwise,
also not going to be oh, yeah, that day. I guess I would be available that when it premieres, but I'd rather wait the next week or two. So, like at the earliest, I don't mind waiting.
yeah, I don't need to see it right away. It gives me
Me
and
neither.
Jess more time to finish the
Yeah,
Marvel.
let's
We'll have
let's
to
go
watch
see it
Marvel.
after you watch Miss
Yeah.
Marvel.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll for sure make sure that whenever we decide to go see it, I'll finish Marvel. It's only six episodes, I believe.
Just
So
watch Miss Marvel and just let me know when you're done, and then we'll go
yeah,
see the Marvels, because I'm not in a rush other than like doing the podcast, but I'm
yeah,
like the next thing on the list is Echo, I think. So like, where's the rush for us, right? um
yeah. We could recap Loki. We could recap Hawkeye, I guess, before
yeah,
watching Echo. I guess.
yeah, we did have a discussion on Hawkeye when it came out.
Yeah.
That was one of the few early Marvel, like Disney Plus shows, that we were able to talk about, because we
Yeah.
started around What If. We
Hmm.
didn't get to talk about it. We could have if you want to do like a WandaVision rewatch, since the Marvels are coming out, we can like reflect on
Yeah.
that. I would rather do like a Miss Marvel podcast, because we never got to talking about that.
We
And
did Moon Knight, right? We
we did
talked
Moon
about
Knight,
Moon
yeah.
Knight. Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, pretty much everything after What If we pretty much talked about. What If was a
Pretty
good one
much.
because everything was a different episode and they sort of intertwined a little bit with like the Watcher,
Yeah, it
but
was fun to like figure out like how stuff would change in each of those universes.
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Miss Marvel we never got around to. She-Hulk we didn't really get through. I had Sam from McClunky Squadron on a few of the podcasts to talk about it. But that's about it. So I would like to do that. Um, and then also we missed the whole. We were after WandaVision, so we never got around to that.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't think we did WandaVision and whatever the second one was. Was it Captain and the Winter
Second one would have
Soldier?
been Falcon Winter Soldier,
Yeah, so I don't think we
which
talked about that
I,
one
I,
either.
I mean, we can do before Captain America.
Yeah, yeah, I
We'll do a
suppose. Yeah.
rewatch before Captain America.
Yeah, I'll probably have to.
Yeah. But I mean, after all this, I just talking Agents of Shield. I would like to rewatch that show.
I've
If you ever
never
want to
watched
watch
it,
it.
so I should probably I'll have to get around to it.
Apparently, it might not be canon anymore, but I kind of want to rewatch it and see like um how problematic it would be to the current MCU. There are a few things I will mention. One, the Darkhold is in it, and it is completely different. It looks completely different.
It's an
Um,
Agents of Shield.
um, yep. Two,
Interesting.
Agents of Shield deals with time travel, and their time travel rules are completely different to Loki and Avengers and everything else.
Can I ask how they created time travel when
They didn't create it.
Tony's they didn't create it? Is it a how does it deal with it? I just want to know.
An alien sent them forward in time.
Like like Agent Coulson and them as well?
Yep.
How come Agent Coulson just stopped being in the Marvel thing? Like he died and then we were like, "Oh, we're going to make him do a lower stuff with the agents." Then he just gave up being very important. Like what happened? They just stopped?
Um,
Is he in through
the
the whole
the
show, Agents of
the
Shield?
I think the eight yeah he's throughout the whole show.
Hmm.
I think the on camera answer like the interview can't answer for that was it's just hard to first of all because there were different studios working on it
Yeah.
within Disney within Marvel. I hate having this argument. They're all the same company. It's not the same as Sony working on Spider-Man uh like like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies or Fox working on X-Men where they like clearly had no interaction with Marvel whatsoever other than the legally required notes that they had to send to Marvel as per the contract. This
Yeah.
was this was a separate studio within Marvel working on projects that were supposed to be part of the MCU. So that's the difference there. And they did work together to try to
Mm.
get things to work cohesively as much as possible. That said, there was also notorious behind the scenes drama with Kevin Feige and some of the other and like the other people involved. So there
Yeah.
was sort of like uh, a feud going on there. But for the most part, they were trying to work together. That Captain America Winter Soldier comment that I made earlier was an example. They kind of worked around it in the show based on what was happening in the movie. But because of different production times for TV shows versus movies between different studios, it was hard to work out stuff happening in the movies based on what was happening in the show. So that's what their answer was. They just couldn't line things up properly to be able to have like the Defender show up in Infinity War or whatever, right?
All right.
Um, so that's one reason. The second reason was, I think according to Joss Whedon, from what I remember at the time reading an interview, um, the show audiences are coming from the movies, like they're experiencing more stuff. The movie audiences are not necessarily watching the shows at that time.
Yeah.
So they didn't want to confuse the movie audiences who only knew that Bolton died. They didn't have the
Uh,
TV show explanation that he's still alive, right?
yeah, that
So
makes sense.
so that's why they did that. Now with Disney Plus, everything's monitored by one studio, right?
Yeah.
And they're not a annual like they're not a regular fall production um TV series that's on network television anymore, right? They're on a streaming platform that gets released when it's done, just like a regular movie production. So
Yeah.
they can cohesively make things work together, which is why we had WandaVision and then Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. They worked together on that because they could finally do that.
Right, right. Yeah,
Now
that makes more sense.
now it seems like with this book and everything else that's happening in the current phases of Marvel, it seems like they're retroactively um, removing the rest of those previous projects from canon, despite what we were saying. It's easier. It's easier to tear things to the ground. It's
Yeah.
harder to fix things and make them work, I guess. Even though I think in this case it would be easier just to keep things the way that they are.
Yeah.
But I think, production wise, I guess, if they're looking at like the money and how to make things work creatively, I guess it
Mhm.
is just easier for them to just burn everything else to the ground.
Yeah. No, it makes that. Yeah. Trying to think what else. I guess I think that's about it. Next week we can do
Episode 5
episode
of
5 of
Loki.
Loki, and then that following Thursday, the last episode of season 2 Loki comes out, and we'll probably have our last podcast for Loki the
Well,
following
yeah,
Monday.
this Thursday actually, the finale is out.
That's what I'm saying. So like
Yeah,
this, so this. Oh, sorry, yeah, this Thursday. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, you're right. So this Thursday, the finale. I'm gonna watch probably episode 5 after this,
Wow,
or tomorrow.
I'm going to bed.
I might go to bed too. I'm gonna go see what my girlfriend wants because she's
Yeah.
getting antsy. So we'll
All
figure it
right.
out.
Well, on that note, we're gonna end the podcast here. I can't hear the outro music, so I hope it's playing. If not, I'll edit it in. But what were your thoughts on episode 4? If you have watched episode 5, what are your thoughts on Echo? I guess because don't post the spoilers in the comments.
Yeah.
But we'll see you in the next one. So we'll be doing this next week. We'll be talking about more stuff in the news, Jonathan Major's trial updates, Daredevil production updates. We'll be talking about that next week. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.
See ya.